Okay, okay. Settle down, you little buggers. Okay, okay. I'm very paranoid about pressing the button because last time I did it, my camera turned itself off. Shall we do it? Shall we? Shall we take this risk? Uh, we're here. We did it. Although, of course, there is one caveat in that the fucking Discord chat's missing. There it is. All right. Okay. If you want to appear in this, whoa, if you want to appear in that piece of shit, if you want to do emotes, if you want to put little fucking Pepe Peepo poggers and whatever else it is you zooms do, go and join the Discord. There's a link in the description. Behave yourselves, etc., etc. Probably because I have been streaming. I stream on Twitch like quite often, at least this week. Kind of balancing the two, you know, some streams go on Twitch, some go on YouTube. I'm not going to be a dual streamer. I don't know if I'm feeling it, to be honest, because I think Discord chat, once it's going, is a lot more fun than the YouTube chat. We had an interesting week of streaming, though. We had raids. We had someone who was going to debate me on 100 million dead in communism, and then he fucking bailed out because felt like he wasn't prepared. I don't know. It was a really interesting email exchange, but he was all puffing his chest and being like, "We're gonna it should oh god damn it. There we go. There we go." I still haven't figured out a way to make it work properly. But I think that should do it, right? Is that gonna freeze again? No. Okay, it's good. I'll just have to refresh it every now and then. Why are people already sending fucking attachments and shit? What? Am I gonna be opening stuff already? What's this? What's my opinion of Alden's? Come on. Who do you think I am? Think I'm some kind of deranged, degenerate Aldenist? Oh god, the links in the description add different character. I don't know why it does that. Like I do change it and then it does it anyway. It's so weird. Allow the links to embed. Fuck no. Fuck off. Do you have any idea how much of a terrible idea that is? Hello, unverified. Hello, someone who I've never seen in the Discord before. Yeah, you want to embed links, do you? Fucking freak. We let embed links happen once, and the chuds took control. It was not a good day. What do you think of the SNP, man? I'll probably vote for them. Probably first vote SNP at least. I don't know about the too much about the Green candidate where I am. I don't even know if there is one. No, there is. Yeah. So I need to probably both vote SNP, even though I don't like them. They're not. I don't consider them a left wing party. They're good at like left wing rhetoric in certain areas when it comes to like immigration and race relations and gender relations and shit like that. But economically, they're still quite right wing, like the Growth Commission, etc., etc. What do I think of Plaid Cymru? I remember Leanne Wood was good. Fucking Discord chat. Debate on embeds right now. Okay. Do I think increasing the minimum wage would cause inflation and or would good? No. There isn't enough demand in the economy right now. So like pushing up the minimum wage, or in effect putting up the wages of people in general, only causes inflation if things are getting sold too quick and then bosses decide to up their prices. Do you think increasing the minimum wage would cause... no, I've already answered that. What's my next video about? It's about worker co-ops. Here, I'll show you. It's fucking huge, is what it is. Worker co-ops with an added Vosh response to some of his content. Here we go. Wait, where are you? Oh, it's here. Yeah, that's my next script. It's pretty big. Did quite a lot of research. Hopefully I can close the case soon enough. When will this drop? Well, I start filming tomorrow. And from then on, we'll see. We'll see. Opinions of Vosh, he's quite good. The only I'm not even criticizing his thing on co-ops. I'm really just criticizing more of a kind of like the fact that there are one or two blind spots. That's it. You know? What do I think the best chances for achieving socialism in the UK? I don't know. Probably breaking up the union. There are two ways you can utilize the left in the UK, and it's either by nationalism or by the Labour Party. And look how the Labour Party are doing right now. So, you know. Showing your desktop. I too like to live dangerously, Pepe. Yeah, I know. I do check. I don't think there's anything too dark going on in there. Nah, it's all good. Opinion on Scottish Socialist Party. I used to like Tommy Sheridan. He's a very good orator, but you know, albeit sometimes a bit troublesome. See, if you fucking idiots got on my Twitch, you'd have answers to all these questions. I covered the Destiny Wolf debate. I thought it was really entertaining watching Destiny get frustrated by a angry no bullshit professor, but Richard Wolff didn't do well either. He said things that contradicted what are in his book, because I read Richard Wolff's book the week before the debate, and he was just saying things that contradict what's in the book, or things that the book could have answered, but he wouldn't give answers to Destiny. So I get the whole, like, he's a professor, but he's also supposed to be a debater. And he's done debates that aren't always, you get 2 minutes, they get 2 minutes. He's done debates where it's back and forth and done a much better job than that. So I don't know. I think he maybe just heard Destiny's opening statement, saw the hoodie, and just thought, like, why am I taking this person seriously? I don't know. Heard about the SDL drama? Yes, we're not approaching it until they come out with their statement and I've looked into it properly. From what I understand, you know, the comments were from 2019, you know. If they've, like, all I can see so far is that it's like very fucking bad and insensitive humor. But, you know, people change, and I'd like to see what they have to say about it. Are you really a breadtuber if you don't have bisexual? I do have some bisexual lighting that you can see. It's there. I've never changed in my life, unverified Pepe. Yeah, I know. You were right from day one. Just popped out of the womb, spitting them truths. Dropping those red pills. Thoughts on Nip? I love Nip. I want it all in my face. Shall I start the segment? There are 283 people. Well, that's why we choose YouTube over Twitch. Who am I voting for in the Scottish election? SNP, probably. Do you think we'll still have Johnson in 6 months? Yes. Who the fuck's opposing Boris Johnson? Is that a thing? Lexi, nice to see you here. Come here often? Thanks for your sources, by the way. They were good sources. They got me going. Am I voting? I don't know. I'd have to look at the candidate because some Green MPs are really fucking bad. Some Green MPs blocked like the resolution in the Brexit deal that related to a single market. Like they were actually happier just to make Brexit worse just because they thought it increased the chances of people wanting to revoke Article 50. There's a lot of fucking bullshit in the Green Party. Like, I don't like it when people just start to decide that democracy doesn't matter because it doesn't suit them. Systemic racism to Surreyors. Okay. Why do I think Slavoj Žižek is based? Because I mean, he's not always based. He's just mostly based. Okay, let's monitor this stream chat. Let's make sure it doesn't fuck up. Yeah, it's still going. Okay. I think we've fixed things up. Oh god, the fucking Conservative Party. My. What fucking horrible people they are. Like, we all knew that the Conservative Party were sleazy, that they were corrupt, that they were cronies, that they were fucking in bed with private businesses because, you know, they all do this. One of the things that happens very commonly to MPs or, you know, political figures is no matter how much of a shit job they do with the public, with their time in office, they go on to get big jobs in private companies. Nick Clegg, complete fucking failure. Everyone hated him by the time he left. Went to get a job at Facebook. David Cameron went out in a pretty humiliating way. And nonetheless, aren't most of these claimants coming from Dominic Cummings? Nope. Some of them are, some of them aren't. I know very well not to trust the word of mouth from Dominic Coombrain. So, like, yeah, Nick Clegg went to work at Facebook. David Cameron, who went out on pretty humiliating terms, got hired by private financing companies. And that's really because the fact that you used to be a politician, no matter how badly you did, they're not there for your talent, clearly. They're there because you have contacts. You have the phone number of the chancellor, of people in the treasury. And if you so wish to use public money to help your business, you can do that. You can, and that's exactly what they did, to the surprise of no one. Mr. Spudnugget, if you DM me your YouTube handle, I'll make you a YouTube mod. So the story is there was a company called Greensill that engages in what is called supply chain financing, which is a fancy word for banking, whilst not being an official bank. Because if you're a bank, you're subject to regulations. If you're a supply chain financer, you're not. You can give loans to people, you can be completely unsustainable in what you do. You can scam people, you can fucking give people loans that you know they can't pay back, etc., etc. You can give them ridiculous interest rates. And basically, you can just build this completely unsustainable short-term profit financial system. And it was bound to collapse. It did. And then it came out that they had quite a lot of close connections to Conservative Party ex-MPs, including the ex-Prime Minister. Now, this was especially prevalent during the COVID crisis because the Bank of England was purchasing debts from a number of companies to help them through the pandemic, you know, as they should have done. And what happened was David Cameron was personally, while he was out of government, was trying to influence people in the government to get Greensill involved in this scheme. So Greensill is a built-to-fail company, effectively. They are built to squeeze out as much as they can from people with their high-interest loans and unsustainable lending, and then to just fuck off and strip the assets when they're gone. So this company should not have been getting government aid, but it did because David Cameron was employed by Greensill to lobby the government to do that. Actually, no, I should say this did fail. They didn't actually get the money, but they tried to. Even though Greensill is basically, it's a company that shouldn't have existed, let alone had state support. Is the description Discord link being shit again? Even though I checked it multiple times. Okay, YouTube chat. Don't worry. I'm coming. Full stop. To the rescue. Let's do it. Let's get it from here. Discord. Copy. Let's go in here. You know what? I think it's a fucking spacing thing. Anyway. Wait, what? Did someone fix the Discord link? No, but I'm just putting it in YouTube chat. In the YouTube description. I don't know why, because it looks fine from my one. It's so strange. Right. Try that, fucking animals. Is my description unironic? What? Oh no, never mind, that's not me. Okay. We done it. We're on fire. Okay. So, David Cameron has basically been trying to use his contacts whilst out of office to get the government to help companies that really don't deserve government help. Like, don't need it, don't deserve it, shouldn't really, just complete fucking sleaze. And this is really, that's not even the extent of it. Matt Hancock, you know that guy? The guy who is quite easy to recognize in the sense that he looks constantly terrified when he's doing interviews. If you look up Matt Hancock interview on Google, just look. He just looks fucking like he's had to wear his reinforced trousers for every single interview he does. He's not good at his job. I don't know why the fuck he's there, in charge of the NHS of all things. Health Secretary Matt Hancock. But he was involved in this scandal as well, because what Greensill had was they had an app that they tried to push into the NHS trusts. So the NHS workers could get this app to take out loans because they weren't getting their wages in time. So basically to give dodgy financing to people who needed their salaries early. And how fucking creepy is that? Like, how disgusting. How fucking exploitative to underpay your staff at the NHS and then to give them an app hooking them up whilst they're... Whoa, shit. Whilst they're completely fucking desperate. And getting them to take out dodgy loans when they're at their most vulnerable. Sir Nigel Farage in YouTube chat. Okay. Sounds pretty conservative, yeah. I'd say so. Nothing unusual. This happens to Labour MPs as well. Not quite to the same degree, but there was that Labour MP who left over Corbyn's anti-Semitism and then ended up working for a water company and was one of the last MPs in Britain who wants to privatise the water supply. Nigel Farage came from the City of London, has friends who want to privatise the NHS, wants to do it himself. These people are hired because they have contacts. And what this really is in its most blatant representation is just class struggle, like through and through. It's motivations that are, it's like behavior that's being motivated completely by class power. And it's a class political project based pretty much around feathering the nests of very, very wealthy people at the expense of us, at the expense of taxpayers, normal fucking people. who don't have our fingers in the ear holes of Downing Street officials and corporate hierarchies. Now, it's interesting that this is coming out now, because until very recently, the idea was, the feeling was, that Tories had kind of changed a little bit. Did anyone notice this? That the kind of PR-based, well-trained media monkey, David Cameron style, Tony Blair emulating approach kind of gone with Boris Johnson. Like people who hated David Cameron voted for Boris Johnson because Boris Johnson saw himself as a populist. He utilized populist rhetoric. He used anti-establishment rhetoric during Brexit and during the 2019 election, to the point that now Corbyn being aggressively anti-austerity, it didn't ring because Boris was anti-austerity. He was talking about increasing funding to the NHS. He was talking about massive state intervention during the pandemic. So what we had there was like Tories were effectively presenting themselves more as this kind of like, conservatives in terms of hating immigrants and nationalism and all that shit, but being very like pro public spending so long as it's for the locals, like national socialism. No, not that. No, no, definitely not that. But yes. So, and honestly, like, if you were going to ask now, Corbyn got in a lot of shit for suggesting free broadband. If someone gives free broadband now, if we hear that policy floated again, it'll come from Boris, not from Keir Starmer. But nonetheless, the problem with right-wingers using populist rhetoric is that it's always a lie. It was a lie when Trump did it and then proceeded to give tax breaks to billionaires, etc., etc. And it was a lie when Boris did it now. Boris Johnson has also been implicated this week for potentially using party donor money to refurbish the Downing Street house, which is against the rules, basically, which is against protocol. He was also he's been accused of saying that he would rather see bodies pile high than enter another lockdown. That was a quote that came in today. Rather have bodies pile high than enter another lockdown. I don't know if that's true. Bear in mind, it's an accusation made by Dominic Cummings, but it doesn't matter whether or not he said that, because consequentially, he acted as if that's what he believed. He waited a month to lock down when it was made clear that that was what we had to do. Good question, Maximilian de Robespierre. Oh God, the LARP is strong. Why has Labour got so much trouble getting into power? Because Labour is actually a Labour Party. Half of their funding comes from unions. They're not like the Democrats. They can never really, barring, Tony Blair, even then, they can never really do quite what the people in power, the people with all the money, want them to do. Even under Tony Blair, they had resignations all the fucking time. They had backbench opposition to the war, to PFI, and to all that kind of like. They had a lot of opposition from within their party, from socialists within the party. So, yeah, they had that. And that's why they're not really allowed to get into power. If you discount the 13 years of Tony Blair, when they were basically doing everything the Tories wanted them to, Labour have only had power for 18 out of the last 120 years. It's fuck all. 31 if you count Tony Blair, which I don't because he wasn't Labour. Josh Woods with the $10. Can you give me a quick rundown of what austerity means? Austerity is when the government's in debt, say economic crisis, and It's the rationale that you reduce that debt by cutting public spending. So you treat the government like a household. And it's a complete red herring because governments are not the same as households, believe it or not. Whoops. If a government reduces its spending, it also reduces its income because when governments spend, they invest. And if they reduce their investment, they're going to get less returns in taxes. And austerity kind of puts you on this vicious cycle where the government spends less money. Consequences, the government makes less money. The government gets into more debt because they've made less money. They can't pay back the debt. So then they cut even more, and then they spend less, and then they make less, and it just goes round and round and round until you get fucking Greece, you know? That's why austerity in the UK didn't actually last that long. What's my IQ? My IQ is Sigma balls. 437 viewers. You people are cool. Wow. So that's my hot take on the Tories right now. Absolute pieces of shit. And I have mentioned this on Twitch before, so I apologize to all 3 people who have heard it already. Dominic Cummings, who is the one that's made a lot of these accusations against Boris Johnson, had this really interesting theory about how he won the Brexit referendum, like how the campaign succeeded. And he said it was because they treated British people like they were both extremely left and extremely right wing at the same time. The example he used was that the average British person, you could actually put this according to polling as well, believes that they're quite in favor of public spending, increasing taxes on the rich to fund the NHS and railways and socializing utilities and all that. Most British people are on board with that. The Labour manifesto in 2019 was more popular than the Tory one, which is weird, but you know. But then you ask the same people what they think of immigration or crime and punishment, and they will lean further to the right than someone who's had their right leg blown off. So the same people that are quite amicable to 20th century social democracy or 20th century socialist ideals are also extremely nationalist, extremely transphobic, extremely all the other things. So, in other words, Dominic Cummings effectively, without noticing it, realized that the average British person is kind of National Socialist, quite partial to that mindset. You know? Weird. Uncool. And the problem with Dominic Cummings, of course, is kind of that the guy who kind of engineered this Tory turn to populism is that he knows that populism is just rhetoric. He's not a populist, nor is Boris Johnson. They just use the rhetoric. They're not people versus establishment. Like Dominic Cummings, who was the guy who was whispering in Boris Johnson's ear for the last 5 years, thinks that the country should be run by child geniuses who were selected at the age of 15 based on their IQ. That's not populism. That's not anti-establishment. Steve Bannon's a little bit different. Remember, Steve Bannon fell out with Donald Trump because Trump gave tax breaks to billionaires? Steve Bannon was aware of that. He's at least, as much as you can be, a right-wing populist. But Dominic Cummings and the Conservative Party, absolutely not. All they've done is the same technocratic, elitist, borderline eugenicist bullshit. But they've managed to convince the average British voter that they're fighting some ambiguous liberal metropolitan elite. I don't think the average Brit isn't. No, I'm not saying the average Brit is a Nazi. I love British people, all of them, even the English, even though they're shitheads. Like, it's just that that specter of fascist leaning has never left the UK. We didn't have to reflect on our failed empire and our white supremacy, etc., in the same way that Germany did, for example. Like, our entire upper class during the 1930s was pro-Nazi. They only went against the Nazis after they found out that they were, killing other Nazis and or when they started to threaten the empire. David Lloyd George, who fucking led Britain against Germany in World War I, was pro-Hitler. The king was pro-Hitler, okay? Next, I need to say I love democracy. I do love democracy. Do I think Starmer's Blair 2.0 tactics will actually get Middle England voting Labour? Ash Tubb. That's a good question. It doesn't look like it. Does it? Probably because people were not, like, populism wasn't very popular back then when Tony Blair got in. Now it is. And Keir Starmer is the antithesis of populism, isn't he? He's a technocrat. He's a fucking nasal city lawyer with a knighthood claiming to have forensic analysis of the government's fucking behavior. No, you didn't miss the poll memes. Hell no. We're on section 1. Actually, we're kind of between section 1 and 2 now. But yeah, British Conservative Party, fucking, that's what you get. Every time. This has actually, yesterday I kind of wrongly predicted that this wouldn't affect them in the polls because the press are very good at covering their backs and because a lot of the allegations have come from a liar, like Dominic Cummings is a liar. Do Labour have any chance in your opinion? I don't think so. No. I think in the last 5 years, even including Corbyn, nationalism and anti-unionism have been much more effective in mobilizing the left than Labour have. Have I released any music? I had, and then I took it off. I'm going to re-release it under Loner Box because then maybe people will actually listen to it. No, I don't even know. I don't even know if it's their fault, to be honest, Labour. Like, their policies were more popular than Tories in 2017 and 2019. It's just that, like, the media in the UK is completely Tory. Or the most anti-Corbyn. Like, at the least anti-Corbyn. The Guardian was anti-Corbyn. Like, what the fuck are you going to do? In a country where the average voting age is, like, where the average person is, like, 45 years old, and print media, mainstream media actually, like, plays a massive role in who wins elections. In the last 40 years, Rupert Murdoch has decided who wins every single election. If I were to ask chat a question, if I was to ask chat, how many Labour elected prime ministers do you think the Labour Party's produced since it was founded in 1900? In 120 years, how many elected prime ministers have come out of the Labour Party? How many Labour leaders have made it to win elections as prime minister? 5 combo 6. Some people are Google searching and not reading the fine print. It's 4, yeah. 1 was a minority government. 1 was a eugenicist and a racist. 1 was a Thatcherite. You know? Pretty fucking bad. We've had almost as many Tory prime ministers in the last 10 years. You know? Like, you can blame the party for bad optics. No, Gordon Brown doesn't count because he wasn't elected. James Callaghan wasn't elected. Ramsay MacDonald got a minority government, so he counts. But yeah. So, you can blame it on their rhetoric, on Jeremy Corbyn's charisma, on fucking Keir Starmer's terrible fucking media presence and all. You can blame all those things, and there is some truth in that. But look at how much worse the opposition does, and Labour still loses. Like, they're not supposed to win. If they win, the system's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. The only time they win is when the system wants them to win, when Murdoch wants them to win, when the fucking majority of British print media wants them to win, and when the majority of when financial institutions decide to back them. Who was the racist? Clement Attlee. I will defend that, by the way. Clement Attlee. James Callaghan wasn't elected. He took over after Harold Wilson exited. And yeah, I will absolutely defend. Harold Wilson was elected. Yeah, he was a Republican. One of the more based ones. He was actually responsible for closing the last British concentration camp that existed under whoever came before him, Ted Heath. I think Harold Wilson's probably the only one who didn't have that many skeletons in his closet, although he did fucking... we can forgive Clement Attlee. Man, not all of them. Some of them are pretty bad. But yeah, no, Harold Wilson, I guess the only criticism I've come across of Harold Wilson, like, effectively was he was the one who blocked Tony Benn's attempt to expand closing companies and turning them into co-ops. Tony Benn did have a campaign where he wanted to convert closed steel plants in the north of England into co-ops, and Harold Wilson blocked it. So, you know, because Harold Wilson was very stuck in the mud, like old school unionist, like, don't take over the workplace, just let the exploitation happen and then redistribute afterwards. Yeah. Wait, what? What's my education? Sociology. How was Attlee a eugenicist? He was in the Eugenics Society, wasn't he? And his opinion on fucking immigration as well, like, he kind of saw it as like a temporary incursion. He wanted to reassure everyone that it wasn't permanent. Lonerbox, I just became a patron. Love your content. I saw that. After all this time huddling around in chat in the comments, it's good to have you on board. Hope you enjoy I need to upload more to Patreon. I'm going to do it after this video. I'm going to upload all the scripts. That's going to be the next thing. As well as, I actually do have quite a few unreleased videos that are going to go on Patreon as well. I can do that anytime, actually. Probably do that tonight. Sociology, fake IQ, I know. I might be wrong about the eugenics, yeah. I was pretty sure he was part of the Eugenics Society. If you want a really strong criticism of Clement Attlee, one thing he did, whilst he was building the NHS and the British welfare state and building all those houses and shit, he also oversaw massive amounts of slave labor being used within Britain to effectively get through the post-war economy. So what happened was, after a war, what happens is there are surrender terms usually, and both sides come to an agreement about when they're going to get the prisoners of war returned home, right? However, Nazi Germany was an unconditional surrender, which meant the British had no obligation to tell the Germans when their prisoners were going to get returned home. And so what happened was, with quite a lot of German and Italian prisoners of war living in the UK, being held in the UK, the decision after the war, because there was so much agricultural work and land work that needed to be done, Clement Attlee, a Labour Prime Minister, a Social Democrat Labour Prime Minister, decided to keep them here, like to keep them in the UK, to hold them in concentration camps, like full-on concentration camps. They weren't allowed to leave, and they were used as slave labor. So during that whole post-war reform, 25%, a quarter of Britain's land workforce were slaves. And Clement Attlee did have this brought to his attention, and he defended it. He said, "I'm sorry, there's a lot of work that needs to get done." It like basically worked like, yeah. I can maybe find you the full quote, but yeah, he defended it. So, and that almost lasted his entire term. There were German prisoners of war working as slaves in the UK up until 1949, 4 years after the war ended. So, and that's one of the more based labor leaders. Oh yeah. There's within the quote you can actually see him saying like, don't worry, they have all their freedoms, you know, like because they're being well fed and shit, whilst at the same time Nazis who were making the same arguments in the Nuremberg trials were being told, I don't care how well you fed the prisoners, they were slaves, and they were hanged for that. They were found guilty and hanged. So Clement Attlee was making the exact same excuses as people who were being sentenced to death under the Nuremberg trials. So, what can you do? I haven't seen The Crown, no. Clement, what a name. Okay. History's written by the victors, true? Whoa. Wait. Yeah, I've responded to that super chat, didn't I? Josh Woods, yeah. Well. Okay. I'm happy with that segment. Will I play you some Muse? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe at some point in the stream. England net negative Pepe law. Wait, what Pepe is that? I need to... That's Peepo Happy. Okay. Oh yeah, I need to make a mod. Okay, I'm gonna make a fucking YouTube mod. And then, there you are. Okay. Thing is, to actually make a YouTube mod is a bit of a task. Okay, let's do it. Do it right now. I don't know. I haven't seen any chuds yet, although I haven't been looking too closely. Chat's moving quite fast. Fucking community tab. Oh god, it's such a pain in the ass. Here we go. No, it's not there. I thought I had mods. Where are they? Pieces of shit. Okay, here we go. Mr. Spud Nugget, you're getting modded. You're gonna fucking kick some YouTube ass. I've got loads of YouTube mods. Wait, no, it can't find you, Spud Nugget. No matching users found. You need to have like, I don't know whatever it is, but like your URL or something. I don't know why it can't find you actually. It should, because that's what you are showing up in chat. Is your username like different from your... Yeah, something's wrong there. Don't worry, we'll talk about slash poll very soon. That's coming up in a second. I just need to... No, I haven't done this. No, slash poll is next. Obviously, because I've been talking about the Tories. Look at the order. Idiots. Brain dead. Kind of fucking animals am I working with here? I definitely want to... Josh Woods is the chud. Yeah. The chud who donated $10. That's very five-head. Will I play a game of snooker with you? No. Am I an alcoholic person from Newcastle? Opinion of Oswald Mosley before he was a fascist? I don't know. I mean, he was a fascist. Like... Wait, why won't it let me mod you though? That's really fucking weird. Is it because there's a space? No way. That would be so weird. Let's try it one more time. Wait, what's this? No. That's different. Do you have like a URL? That would work. Spud Nugget. Because right now we got no matching users found. It's disgusting. Yeah, I need to get your channel, the URL of your channel, Spud Nugget. Come on. Everyone's waiting for you. We're losing viewers. Go, go. Best UK pre-minister. What? Best UK pre-com. Eh? What? CDMs. Okay. That's what we need. Well done. Bobby. Okay, you're modded. Knock him dead. Okay, everyone, stop fucking talking. Stop what you're doing. Listen to me, okay? Poll. What is it? Does it matter? Probably not. We're going to talk about it. Anyone who doesn't know, there's a really fucking weird site for very weird people called 4chan. Never go on it. It's fucking horrible. Not for the faint of heart. I'm not looking at it on stream. I've got screenshots for the content. It's basically a forum website of different categories where you can find all kinds of ridiculous nonsense. It's full of like, yeah, you don't want to know. I first encountered Poll, which is one of the threads, one of the forums on it, which is short for politically incorrect. So you can imagine a website that has very, very little regulation, very low moderation, doesn't, censor gore or like porn and shit. Like it's really fucking out there. Doesn't censor racism or have any kind of like protections in there for vulnerable groups. Basically one of those, oh, we're the free speech platform. Wait, why is this platform full of Nazis? Couldn't have possibly predicted that happening. That's 4chan in a nutshell. And Poll, the political wing of it, you can imagine what kind of takes end up in there, right? That's where people get all their racism, all their fucking skull shapes and skull sizes and IQ and crime rates. And there's people love to like post pictures of like very picturesque white blonde women getting fucked by black men because it's like humiliation fetish. I don't know. They're weird people, really fucking strange people. And I first encountered it as early as I think 2004. I don't know if it was called 4chan back then because there were lots of chans. There was like 8chan and 12chan, and one by one they got closed for being like reprehensible. 8chan was closed because of that was where the Christchurch shooter came out of, and they were all like celebrating and sharing it like wildfire after the shooting happened, like sharing the video. How old? I'm 29. Fuck off. And because I was a gamer boy, World of Warcraft fucking angry nerd boy, yeah, I ended up on 4chan quite a lot. I didn't post ever. It used to be a bit like quite a lot less crazy than it is right now. But the way I ended up in there was when you're playing online gaming, there were forums and there were voice chats. And I was only 14, so I was voice chatting with a lot of like fairly older people. And one of the things that was quite popular in the little group that I played with, for some reason, gamers, was lots and lots of racist and sexist humor, And I was very much of they're just jokes, bro, we're actually, it's the most anti-racist thing you can do to present racist arguments in a satirical way, in such an extreme way that it exposes it for how stupid it is. I didn't say it in that way. I was 14, but that was the sentiment. Like I spent a few years in Dubai as a child, so I went to a very, very multicultural school. Like there were people from like there was no fucking dominant ethnic group there. So like, I don't know, racism, I never got it, But then what would happen with these people who I thought were just joking, like all exclusively about black people, at nighttime, when there was only 4 or 5 people left on the voice chat, they would start talking about really weird shit. Like they would start talking about theories and studies all about like how fucking like controversial research that's proving that black people are like under evolved and shit and all this nonsense. And I didn't really have the wherewithal at the time to combat it. It just I was just like, oh well, I guess if that's what the science says, And then I, like relayed what I'd learned to like a biology teacher in school who was based as fuck, who basically sat me down and said, listen, boner locks, young sweet child, there are professors who will back, like you can find a professor to back any idea you want. The difference is when a professor claims they've discovered something, they can go about it in one of two ways. One is they can take it to fellow academics, they can publish it on a journal, allow their peers to review it, allow it to get scrutinized, to get picked at, to get criticized, to get shot down. They can have conferences and present this. So they can do it in that way. And that's the responsible way if you're an academic to present information. If you're a bit lazy, what you can do is you can instead bring that information to a private company. A private company can commission you to say that. You can go to a non-government, weird, random like organization that was just started by some creepy millionaire. You can self-publish. You can put them on a YouTube channel. You can start a think tank like Quilliam, and not be accountable to anyone. And that's why you trust some data and not others. That's why if a professor says they've discovered that 9/11 was actually done by the fucking Jews who put some bombs below the buildings, but the professor, the responsible professor, has decided to present this information on a fucking website that was started by like someone unidentified, and the website's called like the hidden truth.com, then you don't trust that. And that's when I heard, that's why I thought like, okay, maybe this whole racism bullshit, maybe like all these studies that are showing up on 4chan and these little memes, I was just like, yeah, that makes more sense. I buy that. And that was my disillusionment from 4chan. Some people don't get that experience though. Not everyone has a based biology teacher who can explain something in such a succinct way. Nor can everyone have an IQ that's higher than their fucking shoe size. And so they stay on Pol. They spend a very, very long time on there. And I just decided to revisit it yesterday. Like I go on from time to time, but I just gathered some screenshots just because the community in there is just, it's so fucking crazy. Like, let me give you an example. I found 3 that really summed up where exactly the like extreme wing of the right is. Because how people will, like, there are problems with the left, We don't always get our history right, especially when it comes to, Churchill and fucking all that shit. We don't always advocate for the most sensible policies. Fucking 50 an hour minimum wage tomorrow, we make mistakes. We're idealists, which the world needs, but, we won't put them in charge of everything. So, but the right, holy shit. Okay, let's start. Let's get started. This is an interesting one. See, it's when people see a strong horse and a weak horse, by nature, they will like the strong horse. Osama bin Laden, definite smart man. I don't know if the syntax is terrible because of a mistranslate, but, might makes right. And it's like a little kid looking at an effeminate, aging, bag for a belly, multiculturalist, hippie, flower power person, and being like, nah, and looking at this muscular Chad ISIS terrorist with a sword. What the fuck? Yeah, it's just like, What? Like the reason the alt-right are basically indistinguishable from ISIS is that the ISIS people are stronger. Have you seen ISIS? They're like skinny, fucking floppy 20-somethings, fucking losers who marry underage girls and like just run away all the time. They don't look like this. Very rare do they look like this. Yeah, the artwork's pretty interesting. It's like clip art, you know, like modern clip art. I get nostalgia for looking at it. Anyway, so ISIS are just Reddit mods. Yeah, yeah, pretty much. So yeah, thing is, tomorrow the same person who posted this will post a picture of a woman twerking and going, "Why? This is why the terrorists hate us," you know. And then the week after, they'll complain about grooming gangs. It's so fucking like the incoherence on these people. Boxing match, Lorna Fox versus ISIS. Yeah, all of them. Here's another one. This is fucking brilliant. No, not that. Fuck off. We're not spoiling that one yet. Here we go. I love take note of the picture. I think that's like a rune that's used by the Nazis. I don't know. Welcome to Civil War II, General. Here we discuss the upcoming American Civil War, its political implications, and how to prepare. Here's a video series breaking down CW2. Within the decade, we are going to see an expedited, fucking hell, I can't read. Push by Democrats to achieve one-party rule in the United States. The immediate leftist agenda calls for granting DC and Puerto Rico statehood, expanding the Supreme Court and granting amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants. Achieving even one of these would prevent conservatives from winning the presidential election and lose control of the Senate forever. Civil War II begins when the cost of doing nothing is the worse than the cost of fighting. Okay, so first of all, conservatives are losing because they're fucking stupid, because they all jumped on the fucking Trump train and now no one likes them. Conservatives have been losing in America for a very, very long time. They've been holding on by the skin of their teeth to the fucking electoral college system. Trump won the 2016 election with a quarter of eligible voters. It's not that much, is it? A quarter. Fuck. And this picture, oh god, this fucking picture. This is like one of my favorite like poll memes. You know, you see how it's like the guy is just like posting some YouTube videos and complaining about immigration, and it's like the black sun with a fucking soldier who's just been far too deep in the shit, firing away probably at Democrats or immigrants, I don't know, whilst his terrified trad wife with takes care of the baby. These people, like, these people are the worst representation of the things they claim to fight for. You always notice that they're always talking about like fighting the Civil War and taking care of the having the trad wife in the dress dancing in a field with a beautiful blonde baby and shit. And then they're just fucking posting on a weirdo's like website, posting YouTube videos. Whoever posted this doesn't want a wife. They don't want someone to like distract them from their fucking rage posting. They don't want a fucking baby to take care of. Yeah, but they're only incels because they think women like this don't exist anymore. It's also how, like, this is a really common thing where there'll be some, like, blonde model, take note of that, model, with fucking, like, blonde braided hair, I think it's braided, dancing around in a field, and the caption's like, look what they took from us. You know, but it's like the person that they're fawning over, they're clearly like stroking the screen longingly, staring, is a fucking model. The kind of like, you know, feminist, like sex positive job or potentially sex positive job that these people think is like degenerate. You think these people like no, not all women are models, but this is a fucking model. Like this, like, or at least like someone who went in for a photo shoot of like a with her kid. But most of these trad wife pic like memes are pictures of models, yeah. And this person is clearly a fucking backpacker. Both these two people are clearly like liberal as fuck. I'm just saying. The Nazi version of 99 Virgins. Yeah. What's my name? Loner Box. Keep up. Can you read? Fivehead? What's the black sun? I think it used to be a Norse rune that Nazis use. I think it's that, right? Why do you want to know my real name, you fucking creep? Fuck off. What's your real name? Yeah, my real name is Stephen Bennell. Go get him, Tiger. Oh, the black sun's purely a Nazi symbol. Okay, I trust you, Lexi. It's good that you're here to. Anyway, I think I want to like mine a few more of these like poll images to make a little compilation. There's so much content in there, you know? Yeah, my real name is Carl Benjamin. Go get him. Go. No, it's okay. It's not an ancient root. So anyway, yeah, that's a fucking Nazi black sun. Okay. Using a Nazi cat. That's so weird. Have they gone quiet? The person who wanted to know my real name, Stephen Bennell. That's a stripper's name. Yeah. What is this? What are you saying? Oh no, not there. I'll get it from here. I don't know where to find it. Okay. Why have I been tagged in stream chat? As if that's gonna work. Come on, here we go. Oh god, why is it doing that? Why is it opening there? Fuck off. Okay. So this is the castle that had the black sun. Where is it though? Is the castle itself shaped like the black sun? What? What is this? Okay. What, who are we banning? Someone getting banned? It's inlaid on the floor. Oh yeah, okay. Oh yeah. It looks so much like the fucking Imperial symbol from Star Wars, doesn't it? Let's see. Is Spudnugget banning everyone? Nice. Chad move. My fucking Google search isn't working. That's embarrassing. Oh well. Let's find it here. No, connection is being disgusting. Probably because I'm streaming to 500 people. Ultraman never existed. How many people have had to be banned already? I haven't noticed. I'm fucking like, yeah, I've seen that. I've seen the symbol inlaid. I've seen that. There's someone behind you. Huh? Oh. Oh. Okay. Learner Box accidentally brought up his porn. No, I didn't. I don't watch porn. I'm one of the few. I'd make an excellent poll poster. Hang on. All right, all right. Did that guy just do Star Wars Holocaust denial? Yeah. Okay. Can I tap the piano? It won't make any noise. It's not plugged in. Did reading the marks I sent change or expand? There was one quote in there, Alexia, that I really needed. The bit where he says, within co-ops, the antithesis between labor and capital disappears. That was really useful. And then, not from the GOTA program, but there was a similar thing I found from him talking to the workers, the international workers, whatever, and talking about how we can't expect them to just grow organically by themselves in this context of the IWMA, and how it needs to have state involvement to do it. And Rosa Luxemburg actually had really good quotes on that as well, how she basically predicted that she effectively, I thought, predicted what would happen with Mondragon, that it would grow to a certain size, that it had to keep up with its capitalist competitors, and the workers had to, even though they were self-governing, had to behave like capitalists themselves, which is kind of what happened to the managers, not the workers, but the managers of Mondragon. So yeah, I'm gonna take worker co-ops down a peg for sure, but they're definitely, I'm still gonna advocate for them. They're better. But I don't want to be going too far into the whole, well, if we look at what Karl Marx said, you know, things have changed a bit. Which brings me Mondragon the Rifle. Wouldn't that be Mondragon? As all the fucking gamers like to call it. My Dragon in French. I don't know. But wait, why have I got no fucking internet on Chrome? But I'm streaming. How's that working? Is that a thing? Can they see me? Wait, legit. My internet's going really slow. I'll close the tabs. Fuck it. It's fine now. Chrome is almost always fine for me. That's why I haven't changed over. Whoa. Jordan Peterson's channel is really fucking weird. Close the porn tabs. I should close the porn tabs. Good thing you're here. Look, like biblical series, Chaos and Order, the hierarchy of authority, Adam and Eve, self-consciousness, 4 million views. The idea of God. Every video is him going, whoa. Yeah. Him, creating the earth. Look, every single fucking one. Look at him. Flailing. The Virgin Explainer. Anyone remember when he got like incredibly famous for lying about the C-16 bill in Canada? Has continued to do so. He's one of the ones who is pushing that whole thing that guy who's getting in trouble with the law for abusing the fuck out of their trans child, and Jordan Peterson is claiming that it's being done by fucking, that it's happening under C-16. Compelled speech, yeah, all the same thing that like every fucking Scottish like sleazebag grifter is trying to push about the hate crime bill here and failing at because no one buys it anymore, I guess. Or the only people who do are the kind of fucking blowhards who don't vote, so it doesn't matter. All right. Remember though, when all that happened, and then suddenly he started talking about cultural Marxism and shit. Remember that whole thing? When he started talking about how why Karl Marx was wrong, according to Jordan Peterson. And turned out he said that Marxists were too scared to debate him. Had a debate lined up with Richard Wolff, bailed, and just let Richard Wolff speak to an empty chair, which was a pretty good show, and then finally agreed to talk to Slavoj Žižek about capitalism versus socialism, and decided to spend his opening statement of half an hour talking about the Communist Manifesto and getting it all so wrong, admitting that the only thing he'd read was the Communist Manifesto, a 30-page pamphlet that Karl Marx wrote when he was 25, that Karl Marx prefaced saying the prescriptions in this manifesto are very specific to a very particular time and a very particular place and should not be seen as a general rule for the idea of communism. It was a call to arms for peasants in Germany. Not a generalized prescription. Yet Peterson went for that anyway, probably because it's short and because he's a charlatan. Richard Wolff debating Thomas Sowell would be an interesting. I know. Fucking Thomas Sowell. I need to cover him. It's okay because you're Scottish age bomber guy. You can protect us from reactionary BAMs. BAMs? Are you Scottish? That's a very Scottish word. BAMs. Jeez. I do have to use the bathroom though before I start this nonsense. I guess I should disappear and do that, eh? And then we'll watch Jordan Peterson. We good with that? Chat, fam, people, friends, people, pega. Fuck off, you prick. All right. See you soon. Oh, sorry. Shut the fuck up. Stop memeing. Stop fucking Peepo Pogo's love hearts. Did Lonerbox talk about Wolf and Destiny? Yeah. No, yeah, I fucking, yeah. It's on my Twitch. It will be there for a wee bit. And my next video is going to be about co-ops. So either way, I'm going to address co-ops somehow, some way. Muted boomer box. Fuck off. It's an honest mistake, you know? I'm not muted now. Stop it. It doesn't work anymore. Yeah, I was muted and I realized I was muted and I unmuted. And that's all history now. Okay. The Communist Manifesto. Written in 1840, I don't know. In a time of very restive political action, Marx, at the humble age of 25, decides to write a wee manifesto from some bar in England, 1848, I know, and decides to give some ideas, some inspiration to the people involved should they take any form of political power. Sorry, I haven't got ad block yet. Fuck off. Or I mean, premium. I stream on Twitch. Yeah, I stream on Twitch, you fucking assholes. Subscribe to the Twitch. I mean, follow the Twitch, yeah. I'm not going to do every stream on YouTube because I get kind of imposter syndrome doing like research and gaming streams and like half-assed content in front of 500 people. 450 now, but you know. Anyway. Very time-specific book. A book that, interestingly enough, has about as much praise for capitalism as there is criticism. But, you know, as a piece of historical interest, I guess, or a piece of literature, you should read the manifesto. It's a good read. As a way to understand communism and socialism in the 21st century, no. I pissed 50 viewers away. I know. It just happens. Anyway. Sus. Among Us. I know. Okay. Amogus. Das Kapital is really good. Yeah, you should read that. I will mention that a bit in my next video as well. There's a Das Kapital section. Anyway, Jordan Peterson, it's been a long time. Hello, friend. How are you doing? Come here often? Tell us why Karl Marx is, you know, not as smart as you.
Did instead was return to what I regarded as the...
By the way, he re-uploaded this himself. He's very, like, proud of this moment. He re-uploaded this, like, a week ago? April 18th. Yeah, a week ago. All right, come on, do it.
Original cause of all the trouble, let's say, which was the Communist Manifesto. And what I attempted to do, because that's Marx, and we're here to talk about Marxism, let's say, and what I tried to do was read it. And
yes, the Communist Manifesto, that's Marxism, yeah. A 30-page pamphlet out of a pile of books taller than me. Yeah, that's that guy. That will suffice. Jordan Peterson. The most Googled academic on earth. Goblin Jeeperson. Fuck's sake.
Read something, you don't just follow the words and follow the meaning, but you take apart the sentences and you ask yourself at this level of phrase and at the level of sentence and at the level of paragraph, is this true? Yeah. Are there counter arguments that can be put forward that are credible? Is this solid thinking? And I have to tell you, and I'm not trying to be flippant here, that I have rarely read a tract. Now, I read it when I was 18. It was a long time ago, right? That's 40 years ago. But I've rarely read a tract that made as many errors per sentence, conceptual errors per
The Communist Manifesto literally destroyed Western civilization single-handedly. Haha! iGaming MP1. Nice meme. Hot meme. Jordan Peterson just teaching people to read, I guess. Critical thinking, that's the...
sentence as the Communist Manifesto. It was quite a miraculous reread.
That was a meme, wasn't it, iGaming MP1? Speak! We're watching you. iGaming MP1. iGaming MP1. Yes, what? Are you memeing? Or are you... The fuck is your profile picture? Is that like a fucking soldier or something? I don't know. Anyway.
It was interesting to think about it psychologically as well, because I've read student papers that were of the same ilk in some sense, although I'm not suggesting that they were of the same level of glittering literary brilliance and polemic quality. And I also understand that the Communist Manifesto was a call for revolution and not a standard logical argument. But that notwithstanding, I have some things to say about the authors psychologically. The first thing is that it doesn't seem to...
Don't fucking, like, psychoanalyze a dead guy based on a 30-page pamphlet that they wrote when they were 25. That's not actually a very good professional psychologist thing to do. Just saying.
To me, that either Marx or Engels grappled with this particular fundamental truth, which is that almost all ideas are wrong. And so and it doesn't matter if they're your ideas or someone else's ideas, they're probably wrong. And even if they strike you with the force of brilliance, your job is to assume, first of all, that they're probably wrong, and then to assault them with everything you have in your arsenal and see if they...
I really don't understand why there are no women in my audience. By the way, you must assault the ideas. You must attack them in a V formation.
They can survive. And what struck me about the Communist Manifesto was it was akin to something Jung said about typical thinking. And this was the thinking of people who weren't trained to think. He said that the typical thinker has a thought. It appears to them like an object might appear in a room. The thought appears, and then they just accept it as true. They don't go...
This fucking audience loves it. The fucking laughs, the cackling and shit.
The second step, which is to think about the thinking. And that's the real essence of critical thinking. And so that's what you try to teach people in university, is to read a text and to think about it critically, not to destroy the utility of the text, but to separate the wheat from the chaff. And so what I tried to do when I was reading the Communist Manifesto was to separate the wheat from the chaff. And I'm afraid I found some wheat, yes, but mostly chaff. And I'm going to explain why, hopefully in relatively short order. So I'm going to outline 10 of the fundamental axioms of the Communist Manifesto. And so these are truths that are basically held as self-evident by the authors. And they're truths that are presented in some sense as unquestioned. And I'm going to question them and tell you why I think they're unreliable. Now, we should remember that this tract was actually written 170 years ago. That's a long time ago. And we have learned a fair bit from since then about human nature, about society, about politics, about economics. There's lots of mysteries left to be unsolved, but left to be solved, but we are slightly wiser, I presume, than we were at one point. And so you can forgive the authors to some degree for what they didn't know, but that doesn't matter given that the essence of this doctrine is still held as sacrosanct by a large proportion of...
Yeah, Marx doesn't think about the thinking. Yeah, like how many books has Jordan Peterson put out? Recently, 2 fucking self-help books that don't need citations. Like fucking pop self-help books that just sell you like basic self-help advice, but packaged in a masculine fucking... What? This debate with Zizek convert. No.
Academics probably are among the most, what would you call, guilty of that particular sin. So here's proposition number one. History is to be viewed primarily as an economic class struggle. All right, so let's think about that for a minute. First of all, the proposition there is that history is primarily to be viewed through an economic lens, and I think that's debatable.
He didn't say that. He said, yeah, the history of all hitherto existing societies is to be viewed as class struggle. He didn't say it has to be only class struggle. Just that at least since there were fucking like ancient society, there's been class struggle. Hey.
Proposition, because there are many other motivations that drive human beings.
Yeah, Marx did not say that the only motivation is economics. It's already straw man. Like right from the fucking get-go. What, just because people also do things for curiosity or like jealousy or love or whatever, like, okay. Whoops, I guess he just forgot about all those things.
Than economics, and those have to be taken into account, especially that drive people other than economic competition.
How tall am I? I'm 6'2". Giga Chad height. I'm also not one of those YouTubers who lies about their height. Like that would be very cringe.
Like economic cooperation, for example. And so that's a problem. The other problem is that it's actually not nearly a pessimistic enough description of the actual problem, because history, this is to give the devil his due. The idea that one of the driving forces between history is hierarchical struggle.
Class is not all hierarchical struggle. Oh shit. What? Hierarchy, class is a kind of hierarchy. It's not like tall and short hierarchy or based and cringe hierarchy. Red pilled and blue pilled hierarchy. Class is a kind of hierarchy. How old am I? 29.
Is absolutely true. But the idea that that's actually history is not true, because it's deeper than history. It's biology itself, because organisms of all sorts organize themselves into hierarchies. And one of the problems with hierarchies is that they tend to arrange themselves into a winner-take-all situation. And so, that is implicit in some sense in Marx's thinking, because of course Marx believed that in a capitalist society, capital would accumulate in the hands of fewer and fewer people. And that actually is in keeping with the nature of hierarchical organizations. Now,
appeal to human nature, even though societal structures change all the time. All the time. Appeals to human nature are fucking ridiculous, because we know that humans are one of the most more unique animals in that we change the way we do things and organize ourselves all the time. By the way, the question, even if you're an anarchist, isn't about hierarchy. It's about hierarchies that you consider unjust. Not all hierarchies are unjust. Parent-child is not an unjust hierarchy.
The problem with that isn't so much the fact of there's accuracy in the accusation that is a eternal form of motivation for struggle, but it's an underestimation of the seriousness of the problem, because it attributes it to the structure of human societies rather than the deeper.
Lots of anarchists would disagree with you. Oh fuck, I'd bunch of jaywalking hippies.
Reality of the existence of hierarchical structures per se, which, as they also characterize the animal kingdom to a large degree, are clearly not only human constructions. And the idea that there's hierarchical competition among human beings, there's evidence for that goes back at least to the Paleolithic times. And so that's the next problem. It's that, well, this ancient problem of hierarchical structure
Wait, what did they heckle at there?
There's evidence for that goes back at least to the Paleolithic times. And so that's the next problem. It's that, well, this ancient problem of hierarchical structure is clearly not attributable to capitalism because...
Like again, straw man. He says this in the fucking manifesto. Let's find it. We're doing it. We're looking up the commuloid manifestus. Because what Peterson just said is that the Communist Manifesto claims the history of all hitherto existing societies is the history of class struggle. Free man and slave, patrician and plebeian, lord and serf, guild master, these are not capitalist classes. So, again, what we're talking about close reading and thinking about the thinking, just fucking strawmans because he couldn't understand the first 2 paragraphs. Jordan Peterson, what do they pay you for?
It existed long in human history before capitalism existed, and then it predated human history itself. So the question then arises, why would you necessarily, at least implicitly, link the class structure?
Implicitly? Where's the implicit link? What the fuck?
Struggle with capitalism, given that it's a far deeper problem. And now it's also, you've got to understand that this is a deeper problem for people on the left, not just for people on the right. It is the case that hierarchical structures dispossess those people who are at the bottom, those creatures who are at the bottom. Speaking, say, of animals.
Communism, according to Marx and modern communist ideology, are not the same. I know they're not. Which is why he shouldn't have gone to a debate about capitalism and socialism and just read the Communist Manifesto. I know that. I know there are differences between Karl Marx's socialism and people who advocate for socialism today.
Animals, but those people who are at the bottom, and that is a fundamental existential problem. But the other thing that Marx didn't seem to take into account is that there are far more reasons that human beings struggle than their economic class struggle.
No, again, really? There are other struggles beside class struggle. What? Okay, yeah, again, straw man. Like, it's not, he doesn't say class struggle is the only struggle. Fuck.
Even if you build the hierarchical idea into that, which is a more comprehensive way of thinking.
This guy is paid lots and lots of money to give his opinion on things, to read things and explain them to people. He's proud of this. He re-uploaded this segment to his channel.
About it, human beings struggle with themselves, with the malevolence that's inside themselves, with the evil that they're capable of doing, with the spiritual and psychological warfare that goes on within them. And we're also actually always at odds with nature. And this never seems to show up in Marx, and it doesn't.
Yeah, it does. Struggles with nature, that appears in Marx quite a lot. Yeah, relations to nature. Why is he? The thing is, you can tell because you don't have to have read Marx. He's saying it doesn't appear in Marx at all, right? And then he says he's only read the manifesto. What the fuck? Well, it depends on the communists, the third international change. Lexi, stop. You're so smart. Fuck off.
Show up in Marxism in general. It's as if nature doesn't exist. The primary conflict, as far as I'm concerned, or a primary conflict that human beings engage in, is the struggle for life in a cruel and harsh natural world. And it's as if that doesn't exist in the Marxist domain. If human beings have a problem, it's because there's a class struggle that's essentially economic. It's like, no, human beings have problems because we come into life starving and lonesome. And we have to solve that problem continually, and we make our social arrangements, at least in part, to ameliorate that, as well as to well, upon occasion exacerbated. And so there's also very little understanding in the Communist Manifesto.
Yes, Lexi, listen to Lexi. We're scrolling up stream chat. We're taking the risk. First lines in the critique of the Gotha program. Labor is not the source of all the wealth. Nature is just as much the source of use values, and is surely of such that material wealth consists as labor. Okay, hey, who would have thought that you can't just read 30 pages of someone who wrote thousands and thousands of pages and say that something you're looking for never appears in the book. Lexi, you're so smart. You're so reliable.
Manifesto that any of the, like, say, hierarchical organizations that human beings have put together might have a positive element. And that's an absolute catastrophe, because hierarchical structures are actually necessary to solve complicated social problems. We have to organize ourselves in some manner, and you have to give the devil his due. And so,
who's he arguing with? I don't know if anyone who's like a socialist, or even if you're not a socialist in chat, here's an experiment. Just tell someone you're arguing with that you are, and just watch as they like look straight over your shoulder and argue with the fucking invisible, like, with the invisible commuloid in the room, who they've just like completely invented in their mind. Just watch it happen. Like, every time I argue with like an anti-fucking communist, it's always just like, before even asking what I think, like what it means to me and all that, you're just like, who are you talking to? Who said that? Who told you that class is the only struggle that humans face? Who told you that all the hierarchies should be gone? Why, what the fuck? Yeah, they just see this invisible beard dancing around. Like this anti-Santa Claus shadow mark, this fucking shadow Santa Claus, tapping their fingernails together and cackling about how we're going to destroy all the hierarchy. Lexi.
it is the case that hierarchies dispossess people, and that's a big problem. That's the fundamental problem of inequality. But it's also the case that hierarchies happen to be a very efficient way of distributing resources. And it's finally the case that human hierarchies are not fundamentally predicated on power. And I would say the biological, anthropological data on that are crystal clear. You don't rise
lobsters
to a position of authority that's reliable in a human society primarily by exploiting other people. It's a very unstable means of obtaining power. So that's a problem.
Wait, what?
Predicated on power. And I would say the biological, anthropological data on that are crystal clear. You don't rise to a position of authority that's reliable in a human society primarily by exploiting other people. It's a very unstable means.
You don't rise to a position of authority by exploiting other people. And what?
Of obtaining power. So
really? You don't rise to positions of power by you don't rise to positions of power by exploiting people. Not in these last 5,000 years at least. I know, right? People, yeah, what the fuck? It's because Jordan Peterson's only experience of like employment is working at a fucking university where, yeah, if the dean or whatever is really fucking mean to all the lecturers, then yeah, that's a problem. Or like some really fucking like tight-knit software company or like small business where the boss like will actually suffer if they're a piece of shit to their work. That's the only thing he can imagine. He just forgot that sweatshop labor exists. You know, he just. Well, yeah, he is. Yeah, it's not stable to exploit people. Yeah, he's getting that. But saying you don't rise to positions of power by doing it. But yeah, he's admitting that it's unstable to do so. Jordan, Goblin Jeeperson.
So that's a problem.
I love that.
Well, the people that laugh might do it that way.
Oh, ho, ho, ho. Yeah. Yeah, the people that were laughing in that audience were actually all CEOs.
Okay, now another problem that comes up right away is that Marx also assumes that you can think about history as a binary class struggle with clear divisions between, say, the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. And that's actually a problem because it's not so easy to make a firm division between who's exploiter and who's
continuum fallacy. So this is a really common one. Fucking stop with the fucking legs, you assholes. We're trying to be a serious leftist advocacy channel. YouTube chat is doing better than you guys. Yeah, fucking... What? Because the boundaries are not so clear. Yeah, like fucking... Because you can't tell exactly where blue ends and green begins on a color wheel. You can't say they're distinct. Yeah, you can. Just because you can't draw the exact fine line. And by the way, I think one of the arguments people will make is that people can do both. Be a capitalist and a worker. Like, you can be a fucking Deliveroo driver who is making half of their monthly income on fucking Bitcoin. Then what are you? Well, that's like saying, am I a pedestrian or a driver? Because sometimes I'm driving, sometimes I'm pedestrian. You can still do sociological analysis of the relations between pedestrians and drivers without dividing all of society into one or the other, like, permanently. iGaming MP1 based. There is a fundamental contradiction. Yeah.
Exploitee, let's say, because it's not obvious, like in the case of small shareholders, let's say, whether or not they happen to be part of the oppressed or part of the oppressor. This actually turned out to be a big problem in the Russian Revolution. And by big problem, I mean tremendously big problem. Because it turned out that you could fragment people into multiple identities, and that's a fairly easy thing to do. Yeah. And you could usually find some axis along which they were part of the oppressor class. It might have been a consequence of their education, or it might have been a consequence.
Yeah, so that's even like acknowledging that, at least in the Soviet Union, class wasn't the only divide. There was also like sexuality was a huge divide, and fucking certain poets were fucking hell. I'm sorry, I can't concentrate. Yeah, there's petite bourgeoisie and lumpen proletariat. Yeah, we've already thought that. Yeah, and again, like, Marx isn't trying to say that you have to fit exclusively into one of these camps. It's a broad economic analysis. It's like science. You isolate variables. You simplify in order to get a broader understanding.
Consequence of the wealth that they strived to accumulate during their life, or it might have been a consequence of the fact that they had parents or grandparents who were educated or rich, or that they were a member of the priesthood, or that they were socialists, or anyways, the listing.
I fucking hate my community. I hate them so much. I just wanted to read donos and answer memes. And now I'm getting fucking... And then you answer some questions. Fucking...
Of how it was possible for you to be bourgeois instead of proletariat grew immensely. And that was one of the reasons that the Red Terror claimed all the victims that it claimed. And so that was a huge problem. It was probably most exemplified by the demolition of the kulaks, who were basically peasant farmers, although effective ones in the Soviet Union, who had managed to raise themselves out of serfdom over a period of about 40 years and to gather some degree of material security about them. And about 1.8 million of them were exiled.
Fuck off, Rectangle. Get banned.
About 400,000 were killed, and the net consequence of that removal of their private property because of their bourgeois status was arguably the death of 6 million Ukrainians in the famines of the 1930s. And so the binary class struggle idea, that was a bad idea. That was a very, very bad idea. It's also bad in this...
Rectangle, you can't joke about that shit in Discord. Read the fucking rules, you asshole. Don't ban. Just just think about what you've done.
This way, and this is a real sleight of hand that Marx pulls off, is you have a binary class division, proletariat and bourgeoisie, and you have an implicit idea that all of the good is on the side of the proletariat and all of the evil is on the side of the bourgeoisie. And that's classic group identity thinking. It's one of the reasons I don't like identity politics, is because once you divide people into groups and pit them against one another, it's very easy to assume that all the evil in the world can be attributed to one group, the hypothetical oppressors, and all the good to the other.
Yeah, like the postmodern neo-Marxists and the good, honest conservatives who are being, and the, like fucking Jordan Peterson, who tried to lump like everything he doesn't like into postmodern neo, from fucking corporate CEOs and corporate HR departments to the mainstream media, to the government, to metropolitan people, to feminists. All came from fucking postmodern neo-Marxism, according to Jordan Peterson. Does that mean that if oppressor and oppressed is a Marxist term, doesn't that make like Jordan Peterson a Marxist?
And that, well, and that's naive. That's naive beyond comprehension, because it's absolutely foolish to make the presumption that you can identify someone's moral worth with their economic standing. So
he's so fucking rude as well. I thought that that's the biggest problem, but
and that actually turned out to be a real problem as well, because
Craig Boner, let me ask a question. What question?
Marx also came up with this idea, which is a crazy idea as far as I can tell, of the, that's a technical term, crazy idea, of the dictatorship of the proletariat. And that's the next idea that I really stumbled across. It was like, okay, so what's the problem? Well, the problem is the capitalists own everything. They own all the means of production, and they're oppressing everyone. That would be all the workers. And there's going to be a race to the bottom of wages for the workers as the capitalists strive to extract more and more value from the labor of the proletariat by competing with other capitalists to drive wages downward, which, by the way, didn't happen, partly because wage earners can become scarce, and that actually drives the market value upward.
Really? Wow. Wage earners can become scarce and drive the price of labor up. I wonder who said that. I wonder who discussed at length wage increases. Before Jordan Peterson obviously enlightened us with it, couldn't possibly have been Karl Marx by any chance. Could it have been a fucking, let me see. I don't even need you for this, Lexi. Watch this. Back. It's on the fucking, you didn't even need to read the book. It's on the fucking back of Capital Volume 2. If wages rise, the capitalists will increase the price of their commodities. Wage increases are considered in Capital Volume 2. He didn't have to buy the book. He could have just looked at the back. Just to be like, oh, did actually Marx talk about this incredibly obvious thing that I'm going to say he didn't consider? Fuck's sake.
But
are you proud of me, Lexi?
The fact that you assume a priori that all the evil can be attributed to the capitalists and all the good, the bourgeoisie, and all the good could be attributed to the...
because he's a Christian, he just has to assume that whoever he's critiquing has to also think that good and evil is like just a given of life.
Proletariat meant that you could hypothesize that a dictatorship of the proletariat could come about, and that was the first stage in the communist revolution. And remember, this is a call for revolution, and not just revolution, but bloody, violent revolution, and the overthrowing of all existent social structures.
Fucking audience. Optics. I have definitely seen parts of Marx where he advocates where he there doesn't need to be violence, even in his day, because it's the majority. I think he says it in the manifesto, doesn't he? The bit where he says, because unlike feudalism and capitalism, it's the majority taking power from the minority, and therefore, like, you don't need violence to enforce that. Like, what are the fucking bosses going to do when there are 10,000 workers outside? Like, just do what they say, you know? Even in Marx's day, that was the case, and he made that argument. I swear that's in the manifesto. Like, almost 100% sure. I'm not going to find it, but fuck you. Maybe there are people in.
Anyways, the problem with that, you see, is that because all the evil isn't divided so easily up into oppressor and oppressed, that when you do establish a dictator of the proletariat, to the degree that you can do that, which you actually can't because it's technically impossible and an absurd thing to consider to begin with.
It's a good thing Marx never really spoke about moralizing or good and evil. Not even, like, there's just no moralizing at all in Marx. Maybe in the philosophy where he talks about alienation and all that, but that's a little bit different. Sorry.
Not least because of the problem of centralization. I mean, you have to hypothesize that you can take
away fixed chat so all the fucking legs can, like, run by. Yeah, sorry.
All the property of the capitalists. You can replace the capitalist class with a minority of proletariats. How they're going to be chosen isn't exactly clear in the Communist Manifesto. That none of the people who are from the proletariat class are going to be corrupted by that sudden access to power, because they're, well, by definition, good.
I can't focus.
So then you have the
no.
good people who are running the world, and you also have them centralized so that they can make decisions that are insanely complicated to make, in fact, impossibly complicated to make. And so that's a failure conceptually on both dimensions, because, first of all the proletariat aren't going to be good, and when you put people in the same position as the evil capitalists, especially if you believe that social pressure is one of the determining factors of human character, which the Marxists certainly believe, then why wouldn't you assume that the proletariat would immediately become as or more corrupt than the capitalists, which is, of course, I would say exactly what happened every time this experiment was run.
Well, the proletariat didn't take control, so does he think that Stalin was just like a fucking little worker who got put in, like a little fucking farmer who got shoved into the power, and all the Central Committee were just, no. It was the replacement of capitalists by state bureaucrats. The proletariat never... Does he know that the Soviet Union was a dictatorship? Not a dictatorship of the proletariat, just a dictatorship. Fuck.
And then...
Yeah. Oh, they love it. Yeah, say that thing that power corrupts. Yes, this is what we pay you for. This is what we use your decades of academic expertise to come out with. Power corrupts. God, it's so based, so fucking based. Teach me, daddy. Teach me how to, yes, just like that. Teach me how to fucking get up and put my shorts on. Teach me how to put my underpants on in the morning, daddy.
The next problem is, well, what makes you think that you can take some system as complicated as, like, capitalist free market society and centralize that and put decision-making power in the hands of a few people, the mechanisms without specifying the mechanisms by which you're going to choose them? Like, what makes you think they're going to have the wisdom or the ability to do what the capitalists were doing, unless you assume, as Marx did, that all of the evil was with the capitalists and all the good was with the proletariats, and that nothing that capitalists did constituted valid labor, which is another thing that Marx assumed, which is palpably absurd. Because people who are, like, maybe if you're a dissolute aristocrat from 1830 or earlier, and you run a feudal estate and all you do is spend your time gambling and chasing prostitutes, well, then your labor value is zero. But if you're...
What the fuck is he talking about? Is this that straw man of the labor theory of value again? Which Marx clarifies that the labor has to be socially necessary to constitute value.
If you're running a business and it's a successful business, first of all, you're a bloody fool to exploit your workers, because even if you're greedy as sin, because you're not going to extract the maximum amount of labor out of them by doing that. And the notion that you're adding no productive value as a manager rather than a capitalist it's absolutely absurd. All it does...
Yeah, managers do add value. Yeah, no one would say that they don't. Yeah, okay, some people are going to get banned. Okay, next one to do that's getting banned. All right. There we go. There they are. Okay. Kick. There you go. Get the fuck out. Let's see what happens now. There we go.
Does indicate that you either know nothing whatsoever about how an actual business works, or you refuse to know anything about how an actual business works. So that's
the fucking combo bot. I know.
That's also
I know, right? Hey, thank God. Thank God.
It's also a big problem. So then the next problem is the criticism of profit. It's like, well, what's wrong with profit?
What are the other theories of value? Well, the labor theory of value before Marx was that just labor time was value. But then Marx was the one who said that if you spend an hour, if you spend 10 hours making something that other people can make in 1 hour, then you have to sell it for the value of 1 hour's labor and not 10. So you sell it's socially necessary labor time. It's whatever the most efficient way in society at that time is. That was the alteration that Marx made to the labor theory of value. He was the one who effectively made the mud pies argument that if you make mud pies all day, that's not socially necessary labor, and therefore you don't get compensated for your labor time. Yeah.
Exactly. What's the problem with profit? Well, the idea from the Marxist perspective was that profit was theft. But profit, well, can be theft because crooked people can run companies, and so sometimes profit is theft, but that certainly doesn't mean that it's always theft. What it means...
Okay, well... That's not capitalism, that's crony capitalism, the thing where people behave according to motivations that are inspired by capitalism. Yeah, apart from that, the argument of theft, and, you can defend this, it's not the worst thing in the world, but a boss will only employ someone, there's no other reason to, unless they contribute more to the business than they're paid in wages. There's no point in them paying you for an hour of work if it costs them more to hire you than they get from hiring you. So it's always exploitative. Nailed it.
Means, in part at least, if the capitalist is adding value to the corporation, then there's some utility and some fairness in him or her extracting the value of their abstract labor, their thought, their abstract abilities, their ability to manage the company and to engage in proper competition and product development and efficiency and the proper treatment of the workers and all of that. And then if they can create a profit, well, then they have a little bit of security for times that aren't so good, and that seems absolutely bloody necessary as far as I'm concerned. And then the next thing is, well, how can you grow if you don't have a profit? And if you have an enterprise that's valuable and worthwhile, and some enterprises are valuable and worthwhile, then it seems to me that a little bit of profit to help you grow seems to be the right approach.
Well, you can grow if you can do that ethically if the workers, what if I told you that you could have a growing business if the workers were the ones who decided what happens to the profits? What if the workers were, at the same time as producers of value, also the appropriators of value, say in a worker co-op, for instance? What if? And in that situation, because the workers are also the organizers of the profit, they have other incentives besides just profit. If they're happy with the work that they're doing and what they're making, they can just break even and be good like that. Corporations are beholden to shareholders and have to grow. Now, is all growth, not all growth is good, is it? Is planned obsolescence good? Is building things to break, good? Is extraction of resources in environmentally unsound ways cutting corners? Cutting corners is growth. You save money and you make more profit. is automating 10,000 people out of a job at once with no compensation good? But how can you have growth? He's just so stuck. He's just like so fucking, insofar as talking about criticizing Marx and people for saying that, assuming things to be self-evident and then calling the growth imperative self-evident. I don't know.
And then the other issue with profit, and you know this if you've ever run a business, is it's a really useful constraint. Like it's not enough to have a good idea. It's not enough to have a good idea and a sales and marketing plan and then to implement that. And all of that, that's bloody difficult. Like it's not easy to have a good idea. And it's not
Do you think the co-op would devolve into a well, co-ops would be hierarchical. They are. There's a hierarchy between managers and workers. It's just that workers, in most cases, get to choose the managers. Like, it's a much more consensual hierarchy than a traditional firm. But yeah, you're right. There are problems. Like, there are problems with, check my Twitter, what? There are problems with, say, Mondragon, where the managers have, over the last little while, become increasingly technocratic. And there is a big conflict of interest happening right now between managers of Mondragon and workers. Yeah, that is a thing. Why am I looking at my Twitter? I've just got like 2 new followers and that's it. And some likes. What? What's the big deal? What happened? Am I being called out? Oh. Okay. Oh, I didn't even bring this one up. This one from Paul. Look at that. Look how the fascist boys all based in military and the Judaism kids all, F-slur or whatever. Like, personally, I think the Judaism kid looks a lot more based than the fascist kid. The fascist kid is like, doesn't want to be there, right? They're having to fucking carry their own body weight in whatever they're carrying, like explosives, tools, artillery, fucking military grade equipment. Their posture's fucked, their spine's ruined. Whereas this epic posture Judaism child is clearly like squaring off with about 40 fucking skinheads who are shouting abuse at them and just being like, fuck you. Yeah, this is a 4chan image that I've... Like, what are they trying to say? That fascism is child abuse and Judaism's like cool? I don't know. Anyway. Oh yeah, so now everyone's replying to my yeah, okay. Okay. The reason they've got me looking at my Twitter is because of this. Anyway. Fuck off.
Easy to come up with a good sales and marketing plan. And it's not easy to find customers and satisfy them. And so if you allow profit to constitute a limitation on what it is that you might reasonably attempt, it provides a good constraint on wasted labor. And so most of the things that I've done in my life, even psychologically, that were designed to help people's psychological health, I tried to run on a for-profit basis. And the reason for what that was, apart from the fact that I'm not averse to making a profit, partly so my enterprises can grow, but was also so that there were forms of stupidity that I couldn't engage in because I would be punished by the market enough to eradicate the enterprise. And so...
Okay, so you're just talking about like what competition pressures? I don't know.
Okay, and then so the next issue. This is a weird one. So Marx and Engels also assume that this dictatorship of the proletariat, which involves absurd centralization, the overwhelming probability of corruption, and
the centralization argument, as Marx wrote in the preface, was specific to the time and place, was not set in stone, was something that Marx went back on later in his life because he wasn't a fan of the state. Again, it's what you get for only reading the Communist Manifesto a day before a debate about socialism.
impossible computation as the proletariat now try to rationally compute the manner in which an entire market economy could run, which cannot be done because it's far too complicated for anybody to think through. The next theory is that somehow the proletariat dictatorship would become magically hyperproductive. And there's actually no theory at all about how that's going to happen. And so I had to infer the theory, and the theory...
Wait, what?
Somehow the proletariat dictatorship would become magically hyperproductive. And there's actually no theory...
Hey, co-ops, Rose Wrist, very good young YouTuber, just did a thing about worker co-ops, which, I mean, worker co-ops are effectively a dictatorship of the proletariat. There is a section in there about how they are at least as productive as traditional firms. But Jordan Peterson's gonna...
theory at all
no
about how
all.
that's going to happen. And so I had to...
Rose Wrist, they're in the Google Doc.
Infer the theory, and the theory seems to be that once you eradicate the bourgeoisie because they're evil and you get rid of their private property...
Why because they're evil? Why is he just projecting his own fucking like Bible-thumping moralism into people he disagrees with? Fucking atheists he disagrees with.
You eradicate the profit motive, then all of a sudden magically the small percentage of the proletariat who now run the society determine how they can make their...
By the way, if productivity is the argument, I don't like making this argument because fuck tankies, but no economy in the 20th century grew faster than the Soviet Union did in the 1930s. No one came close. So, you know, Jordan Peterson, world's most Googled academic, huge brain,
productive
lobster
enterprises, productive enough so they become hyper-productive. Now, and they...
Do I think there are some cases where worker co-ops are ineffective or counterintuitive? Maybe, yeah. No, Brutus, at what cost is not the point. The point, he just said productivity. That was it. He just said you can't have productivity with... How can you... Why are people so fucking bad at like isolating variables? I'm not saying it was ethical. I'm saying... I said fuck tankies. I hate the Soviet Union. Fuck off. The argument was that you can't have productivity without the profit motive and without private industry. Yet you had economies that were insanely productive that didn't have the profit motive or private ownership. Okay? Fucking hell.
Need to become hyperproductive for the last error to be logically coherent in relationship to the Marxist theory, which is that at some point the proletariat, the dictatorship of the proletariat will become so hyperproductive.
You're right, though. I know. At what cost? Like, yeah.
Productive that there'll be enough material goods for everyone across all dimensions. And when that happens, then what people will do is spontaneously engage in meaningful creative labor, which is what they had been alienated from in the capitalist horror show, and the utopia will be magically ushered in. But
why does he keep on inferring this? I like how he's admitting that he's inferring magic and good and evil and shit.
No indication about how that hyperproductivity is going to come about, and there's also no understanding that, well, that isn't the utopia that is going to suit everyone, because there are great differences between people. And some people are going to find what they want in love, and some are going to find it in social being, and some are going to find it in conflict and competition, and some are going to find it in creativity, as Marx pointed out. But the notion that will necessarily be the end goal for the utopian state is preposterous. And then there's the Dostoevskian observation too, which is one not to be taken lightly, which is, well, what sort of shallow conception of people do you have that makes you think that if you gave people enough bread and cake, in the Dostoevskian terms, and nothing to do with except to busy themselves with the continuity of the species, that they would all of a sudden become peaceful and heavenly?
Well, again, Marx is talking about giving workers control over their workspace. He's giving them more. It's about giving people more work, more fucking purpose. Again, he's just making arguments against people that don't. He's just arguing against free stuff for everyone, and no one has to work. I mean, again, there is an argument that the more free time people have, the like most of the world's like best, greatest inventions come from people who made them in their spare time. The Apple computer was built in someone's spare time. Lots of like music is basically written by people who, most of the music we listen to is made by people who had lots of free time to do it. Yeah, using a fucking fiction writer as I don't know.
Dostoevsky's idea was that, we were built for trouble. And if we were ever handed everything we needed on a silver platter, the first thing we would do is engage in some form of creative destruction, just so something unexpected could happen, just so we could have the adventure of our lives. And I think there's something to be said for that.
Josh Woods with the $5. If your arguments would be way more effective if Jordan Peterson wasn't so freaking sexy. True. Very true. Like, so he's just arguing here that people need purpose. Again, an argument made, like, what better way to divorce someone from purpose by putting them in front of a fucking shelf and telling them to stack it for 8 hours, or putting someone in front of a till and telling them to smile and say, are you having a nice day? Do you want a bag for that? Do you want a fucking membership card? What better way to fucking tear people away from a sense of purpose, of motivation, than that? To emotionally exhaust someone so that they're so tired and fucked by the end of the day that all they've got time for is like alcohol and TV and porn and shit.
So, and then the last error, let's say, although by no means the last, was this, and this is one of the strangest parts of the Communist Manifesto, is Marx admits, and Engels admit repeatedly in the Communist Manifesto that there has never been a system of production in the history of the world that was as effective at producing material commodities in excess than capitalism.
Yeah. It's almost as if capitalism is just one of many stages of human progress, and it should by no means be the last one. What? Is saying that capitalism is the most productive system we've had so far the same as saying it's the last system we should ever have? I'd not in critical thinking. Jordan Peterson.
Like that's extensively documented in the Communist Manifesto. And so if your proposition is, look, we got to get as much material security for everyone as possible, as fast as we can, and capitalism already seems to be doing that at a rate that's unparalleled in human history.
He's so fucking confused, isn't he? Yeah, the latest update is the best update. Yeah. He's so fucking puzzled, isn't he? He's genuinely like, he can't understand that. I think it's completely sincere. It's not bad faith. He just doesn't get it.
The logical thing be just to let the damn system play itself out?
Forever.
I mean, unless you're assuming that the evil capitalists are just going to take all of the flat screen televisions and put them in one big room and not let anyone else have one.
His fans love this fucking straw man. They're laughing and they're fucking, yes, daddy, yes. Criticize that work, that the part of the work that isn't there. You tell that fucking straw man that you've invented in your fucking brain. You do it. Tell me again to clean my room, because it clearly wasn't enough for my fucking mother to tell me to do it for 25 fucking years.
The logical assumption is that, well, you're already on a road that's supposed to produce the proper material productivity. And so, well, that's 10 reasons, as far as I can tell, that. And so what I saw...
Every single one of those points was dog shit. All 10 of them. That's incredible. It's just such a shame of like people who because the kind of motherfucker who falls for Jordan Peterson is just someone who's like clearly been made to feel fucking stupid by progressives just once too many times, or never really felt like they've been able to realize their whatever opinion that they have, whatever standard they've built for themselves of masculinity. Because watching Jordan Peterson makes you feel smart in a way that synchronizes with your weird feelings of male dominance and shit like that. Yeah, there's no fucking structure to the. Yeah, the arguments are shit, but it's just that aesthetic, you know, just that like alienated people with really fucking like difficult relationships with their fathers, probably just squeezing him into this missing space in their life and just gobbling it. Like, have you seen the Jordan Peterson subreddit? It's a fucking cult.
In that the Communist Manifesto is.
Come, Father, tell me how the oppressor and oppressed narrative of the Communist Manifesto is fundamentally flawed, and also how good, honest conservatives, and especially men, are being suppressed by the postmodernist neo-Marxists, which, by the way, encompasses fucking corporate HR departments. Yes, tell me. Tell me, Father.
Is like seriously flawed in virtually every way it could possibly be flawed.
Jangles, nice to see you here, buddy. Come here often? It's been a while. Wow. I really enjoyed your performance on the better discourse. I think the discourse definitely was better when you spoke to those people. That fucking post-millennial lady was so weird. Oh, God.
Flawed, and also all evidence that Marx was the kind of narcissistic thinker who psychoanalyze a dead guy. All right. Could think. He was very intelligent person, and so was Engels. But what he thought when he thought was that what he thought was correct.
What?
And he never went the second stage, which is
the fucking syntax. What?
Well, wait a second. How could all of this go terribly wrong? And if you're a thinker, especially a sociological thinker, especially a thinker on the broad scale, a social scientist, for example, one of your moral obligations is to think, you know, you might be wrong about one of your fundamental axioms, or two, or three, or 10. And as a consequence, you have the moral obligation to walk through the damn system and think, well, what if I'm completely wrong here and things invert and go exactly the wrong way? And like, I just can't understand how anybody could come up with an idea like the dictatorship of the proletariat, especially after advocating.
Now he's just throwing shade, isn't he? Oh, Jordan Peterson.
Its implementation with violence.
Yes, I am as a thinker who thinks big think, sociological think, like me. By the way, Karl Marx is a narcissist. Fuck off.
Means, which is a direct part of the Communist Manifesto, and actually think, if they were thinking, if they knew anything about human beings and the proclivity for malevolence that's part and parcel of the individual human being.
It's just the human nature argument, but wrapped up in bad syntax and a fucking thesaurus.
Could do anything but lead to a special form of hell, which is precisely what did happen. And so I'm going to close, because I have 3 minutes, with a bit of evidence as well that Marx also thought that what would happen inevitably as a consequence of capitalism is the rich would get richer and the poor would get poorer. So there would be inequality.
He didn't. If you read anything beyond the Communist Manifesto, you would know that there is room for workers to make it. Marx talks about unions. He talks about the way that it's actually beneficial for capitalism for workers to get paid more in many circumstances. So the capitalists can sell stuff. But you would know that, Jordan Peterson, if you had read, you know, anything.
The first thing I'd like to say is we do not know how to set up a human system of economics without inequality. No one has ever managed it.
Well, is someone saying that there should be no inequality? You know, okay, here's actually a fun fact about Karl Marx. The idea that Karl Marx wanted like equality is kind of like not really correct. Like Marx actually didn't really like the idea of equality. He thought equality was like a liberal ideal. He was like an old school romantic. He did believe that some people were like genuinely like better people than others and more deserving than others. And I think the best argument he made was he was having a debate about equality with another socialist, and he was saying how he was asked about equality, and then I think his answer was just this very good rhetorical, like, equality of what? Like, should everyone have equal rights to a wheelchair? Well, no, people who are disabled have an extra right to a wheelchair. And he said that things like flat taxes and all that were basically like the equal treatment of unequals, which Marx advocated against. Equality is not the goal. The goal is freedom. And autonomy.
Including the communists. And the form of inequality changed, and it's not obvious by any stretch of imagination that the free market economies of the West have more inequality than the less free economies in the rest of the world. And the one thing you can say about capitalism is that although it produces inequality, which it absolutely does, it also produces wealth, and all the other systems don't. They just produce inequality.
What the fuck is he talking about? I can't even. I don't even need to interrupt anymore. I feel like that's just a repetition.
So here's a few stats. Here's a few free market stats, okay? From 1800 to 2017, income growth adjusted for inflation grew by 40 times for production workers and 16 times for unskilled labor.
Yep, something that you could see happening in Marx's time and that Marx commented on and acknowledged, yeah.
Well, GDP rose by a factor of about 0.5 from 1 AD to 1800. So from 1 AD to 1800 AD, it was like nothing, flat. And then all of a sudden, in the last 217 years, there's been this unbelievably upward movement of wealth.
Really? Exponential compound growth, something that Marx talked about quite a lot. Wow, that's amazing.
And it doesn't only characterize the tiny percentage of people at the top who, admittedly, do have most of the wealth. The question is, not only, though, what's the inequality? The question is, well, what's happening to the absolutely poor at the bottom? And the answer to that is, they're getting richer faster now than they ever have in the history of the world. And we're eradicating poverty in countries that have adopted moderate free market policies at a rate that's unparalleled. So here's an example. One of the UN millennial goals was to reduce
There is a bit of contention here in that they tend to redefine poverty quite a lot. But again, this is not contradictory to Marx's theory at all.
The rate of absolute poverty in the world by 50% between 2000 and 2015. And they defined that as $1.90 a day. Pretty low, you know, but you have to start somewhere. We hit that at 2000.
People have to start somewhere. I don't know if starting at $1.90 a day is really where we have to start.
2012, 3 years ahead of schedule. And you might be cynical about that and say, well, it's kind of an arbitrary number, but the curves are exactly the same at $3.80 a day and $7.60 a day. Not as many people have hit that, but the rate of increase towards that is the same. The bloody UN thinks that we'll be out of poverty defined by $1.90 a day by the year 2030. It's unparalleled.
Well, that whole thing about if we just let the economy keep growing, we'll get rid of poverty is a prediction they've been making since 1950. It hasn't happened. because part of capitalism's process of growing and expanding has created new poverties as well. Land grabs in places like India or particular Madagascar, where a bunch of arable land in the country was bought by South Korean companies and thereby displacing a bunch of farmers. And then those people in poverty get brought into the market to work for whoever took over the land. And then the statistics gather that up and say, oh, look, we got rid of some poverty here. Very sneaky.
So the rich may be getting richer, but the poor are getting richer too. And that's not the, look, I'll leave it at that because I'm out of time. But I'll leave it with this.
Have I been ratioed? What? Oh no, it's Discord.
The poor are not getting poorer under capitalism. The poor are getting richer under capitalism by a large margin. And I'll leave you with one statistic, which is that now in Africa, the child mortality rate...
Isn't this the first generation in the UK where people are, and in the United States as well, where people are going to be worse off than their parents? Gee.
In Africa now is the same as the child mortality rate was in Europe in 1952. And so that's happened within the span of one lifetime. And so if you're for the poor, if you're actually concerned that the poorest people in the world rise above their starvation levels, then all the evidence suggests that the best way to do that is to implement something approximating a free market economy.
All right. Jordan Peterson thought he could undo the works of someone who wrote more than just about any other writer on earth by reading a fucking pamphlet, by presenting his argument to someone who's a professor who has written at least 50 books themselves, who actually gained a reputation off of things they said that were true, not by lying to a bunch of sweaty fucking emasculated bitch boys about a fucking hate crime bill. Did it, evidently was proud of it. He uploaded this last week, this snippet from a debate that he had like a year ago. Where are the comments? This is something I forget to do sometimes. You helped pull me from the belly of the whale, Dr. Peterson. Sure, good. That last stat on child mortality is a mind blower. Oh, God. What a genius. It's truly a privilege to listen to this man for free. Yeah. How much of his content is behind a paywall? The way he articulates his thoughts, organizes them, and thinks. Astonishing and inspiring. Oh, my God. What the I have forgotten how amazing this person is. Me too. Look, they're like a cult. When he's not a professor, first of all, plays with his wedding ring, you know a shotgun blast of truth is coming. Fucking shotgun blast of cum. He looked at the malevolent people in the crowd and didn't even flinch at the evil. Man of God. Yeah, who are the ones who are unnecessarily and untenably splitting society into good and evil again? Fuck's sake. I mean, watching Jordan's videos for about 3 years now, every time I have those my mind blowing up moments, these are the kind of people who just, for the life of them, couldn't pay attention to fuck all in school, who were told for years and years and years and years by their mothers to clean their rooms and just went, no. Who found themselves in the lost wastes of fucking internet bullshit. Whoa, shit. Scared, fucking confused, no direction. Suddenly told by this fucking charlatan word salad merchant that men are actually awesome and that every preconception they already had about life was true. That all the feminists humiliating them in arguments are actually wrong and screeching harpies. That one of the most reasonable pieces of pro-trans legislation in world history is actually 1984. Jordan Peterson. Yeah, let's get some of Zizek's response. Because if it was the wrong kind of debater, they would have just gone like probably like me and responded to him by saying, well, that's a straw man, that's a continuum fallacy, that's something that Marx agreed with, you fucking idiot. But yeah, that probably wouldn't have been the best way to do it. I think Zizek's strategy of just, talking to the audience and winning them over with his just like better entertainment factor and better information and better insight was a much better approach. The C-16 bill included a bunch of things. It was protection from discrimination. So before the C-16, it was technically possible to refuse to sell a house to someone or to rent out to them if they were trans. Things like that. That was it. It was an addendum to a bill that already existed for black people and for women and all that shit. They just added in trans people. It was the biggest nothing. It was an anti-discrimination law. That was it. Civil rights 101.
First, do you really, where did you find the data that I simply don't see it? Okay, let me begin by this. You designate your, under quotation marks, I'm not characterizing here, enemy or what you are fighting against as, sometimes you call it postmodern neo-Marxism. I know what you mean. All this, from political correctness to this excessive...
That fucking lean. Did you learn that from, like, the animal kingdom? I've been told, like, interviewers, when they want to press someone, they lean forward to invade their space and make them feel uncomfortable. Was that the plan? Jordan Peterson.
Of whatever spirit of envy and so on and so on. Do you think they are really, where did you find this data? I don't know them. I would ask you here, give me some names or whatever. Where are the Marxists here? I don't know any. I don't, who is a Marxist here?
Yeah, because in America there are like 3 prevalent Marxist thinkers. And that's it. Like, we're quite well represented on Twitter, I guess. We have loud voices there, but there are not that many of us.
Show me any big names of political correctness. I think they fear like a good vampire fears garlic. This is why they are already, the one who is not a Marxist, but at least approaches economic topic, Bernie Sanders, he is already under attack as white male and all that stuff and so on.
Yeah.
I simply, my problem would be this one. What you describe as postmodern neo-Marxism, where is really the Marxist element in it? They are for equality. Sorry, where? They are for equality at these cultural struggles, proper names, how do we call each other? Do you see in them, in political correctness and so on, any genuine will to change society? I don't see it. I think it's a hyper-moralization which is a silent admission of a defeat. That's my problem. Why do you call... Give me... No, it's not a rhetorical question.
I love it how he just keeps asking the same question. As if he hasn't got it. Who the fuck are the postmodern neo-Marxists? Because we should be careful not to confuse it with cultural Marxism, you know, the Nazi conspiracy theory that Jews were using political correctness and degeneracy to break down the Western character. Definitely not that.
For politely saying you are an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. It's simply, I would like to know, because you, and I like this often, when you attack somebody, you said aggressively, and what should? Read more, tell me, whom. So I'm asking you now, not read more, I don't advise you, but who are? Give me some names and so on, and who are these postmodern, egalitarian, neo-Marxist, and where do you see any kind even of Marxism? I see in it mostly an impotent, an utterly impotent moralization. Please, I'm so sorry that I was...
No, that's no problem. Please. Well, I mean, organizations like Jonathan Haidt's, what's it called? Heterodox Academy. And other organizations like that have documented an absolute dearth of...
Hang on. We have to interrupt this stream for the Lexi reading circle. Marx believed in equality, but one man is superior to another physically or mentally and supplies more labor in the same time or labor for a longer time. And labor to serve as a measure must be defined by its duration or intensity. Otherwise, it ceases to be a standard of measurement. This equal right is an unequal right for unequal labor. It recognizes no class difference because everyone is only a worker like everyone else, but it tacitly recognizes unequal individual endowment and thus productive capacity as a natural privilege. Yep. Marx was not fighting for equality, bro.
Of conservative voices in the social sciences and the humanities, and about 25%, according to the what I think are reliable surveys, approximately 25% of social scientists in the US identify themselves as Marxists.
Not a fucking chance. I don't need... No. See, what happens is they're asked if they think they teach Marx, usually for a week or two as part of a social theory module, and then they will say, oh yeah, he taught us a lot of good things, but then also communism bad. That was my experience with 99% of lecturers. 25% of social scientists call themselves Marxists. Fuck off. Even the ones who agree with Marx on like quite a lot don't call themselves Marxists.
And so there's that.
But where are the results?
Okay, but
can you name me one? I know a couple of Marxists. For example, who does very solid economic work. Yeah. I don't totally... David Harvey. One. But he writes very serious books of economic analysis and so on and so on. Then there is the old guy who is far from simplification, Frederick Jameson and so on. But they are totally marginalized today. In this politically correct mainstream, you know, I don't see.
Well, yeah, your questions seem to me to focus more on the peculiar relationship that I've noticed and that people have disputed between postmodernism and neo-Marxism. And I see the connection between the postmodernist types and the Marxists as a sleight of hand that replaced the notion of the oppression...
A conspiracy theory, in other words.
...of the proletariat by the bourgeoisie as the oppression by one identity group by another.
So, does that mean that if good, honest Americans and Canadians are having their free speech undermined by the postmodern neo-Marxists via the C-16 bill, why is that not, if that's oppressor oppressed, if free speech is being suppressed by liberals, is that not postmodern neo-Marxism? Is every oppressor oppressed narrative Marxism? In that case, Poll are pretty fucking Marxist. Every fucking conservative bitch boy who complains about being censored and says they were being silenced for being smarter than everyone else, and fucking Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro, they're all Marxists according to that, because they all see themselves as oppressed.
Totally agree with
okay,
you.
so so now look, we could
But
have
that's precisely a non-Marxist gesture par excellence.
Well, that's the, see, I guess that's where we might have a dispute, because I think what happened, especially in France in the 1960s, is as the radical Marxist postmodern types like Derrida and Foucault realized that they were losing the moral battle, especially after the
Lawrence Fox is the biggest Marxist. Oh God.
Information came out of the Soviet Union in the manner that it came out. That the
Solzhenitsyn and so on.
Yeah, that the whole bloody Stalinist, the whole Stalinist catastrophe, along with the entire Maoist catastrophe, that they didn't really have a leg to stand on. And instead of revising their notion that human history, and this is a Marxist notion, should be regarded as the eternal class struggle between the economically deprived and the oppressors, they just recast it and said, well, it's not based on economics, it's based on identity, but it's still fundamentally oppressor against oppressed.
Yeah, because you don't have to be a Marxist to think that there's oppressors and oppressed. There can be oppressive situations like in any kind of society. If you're a conservative who thinks your free speech is being suppressed, then you're doing oppressor and oppressed rhetoric. Damn, this channel's been popping off recently. Cool. Yes, it has. We got a lot of viewers today. Amazing. But, yeah, again, this whole fucking bullshit conspiracy theory that postmodernists are basically just a bunch of defeated Marxists who changed their theory to squeeze oppressor and oppressed in through the fucking back door is so false. First of all, he's talking about France in '68 when that turnaround happened, even though most of those postmodernist writers were writing before '68 and were criticizing Marxism way before Marxism was out of fashion. The first postmodern text came in like 1959 or something.
And to me, that meant that they smuggled the fundamental narrative of Marxism and many of its goals back into the argument without ever admitting that they did so. Now, I've been criticized, for this supposition, because people who are postmodernists say, look, one of the hallmarks of postmodernism is skepticism of meta-narratives. It's like, I know that perfectly well. And I also know that Marxism is a meta-narrative. And so
this is all like the spark notes that you get. You get like 5 bullet points of postmodernism, and one of them skepticism, yeah.
Shouldn't be able to be a postmodernist and a Marxist. But I still see the union of those two things in the insistence that the appropriate way to look at the world is to view it as the battleground between groups defined by a particular between individuals defined by a particular group identity, so that the group identity becomes paramount, and then the proper reading is always oppressor versus oppressed. With a secondary insistence that's very similar to Marx's insistence upon the moral superiority of the proletariat, that the oppressors are by definition, because they're oppressed, morally superior. And
no fucking postmodernist theorist or Marxist theorist said that you're morally superior because you're oppressed. No one believes that. Someone on Twitter with 7 followers and 7 million tweets thinks that, but no theorist believes that. No one thinks that you're morally superior because you're oppressed. Marx argued that poverty brings out the worst in people. Most of these people would say that oppression actually drives people to very ugly behavior. Most social scientists would say that poverty is what inspires like self-destructive behavior. It makes people hopeless, and hopeless people are like effectively dangerous to themselves and to others. Lonerbox, I'm pretty sure Count Dankula made a second really short response on some reactionary secondary channel he has. What, to me? I know he made 2 videos, yeah. I just didn't respond to the second one because he was kind of like putting up sources that disproved his own takes. I just thought I just left it. And he also tried to defend the idea that China turned authoritarian and started repressing free speech, and it started with hate crime laws. That's kind of old news, though. Yeah.
And there's the call for perhaps not revolutionary change, although that comes up above, but change in the structure so that that oppression disappears, so that a certain form of equality comes about. Now, you argued that Marx wasn't a believer in equality of outcome, and I'm not so sure about that because...
Well, because you haven't read any fucking Marx, you fucking liar. Yeah, I'm not so sure. Well, whatever. Feels over reals, Jordan Peterson.
His notion of the eventual utopia that would constitute genuine communism was a place where all class divisions were eradicated.
And so there's hierarchies.
Well, there's at least an implication that the most important of the hierarchies had disappeared. And so maybe he had enough sophistication to talk about other forms of hierarchies, but if that's
really?
the case...
What, if you know that, then why did you keep on conflating class with hierarchy? He just said that if you're aware of other hierarchies, meaning he knows that class is not synonymous with all hierarchy, then why was he using the existence of hierarchy as an argument against class analysis? Jordan Peterson.
Then I can't imagine why he thought that the utopia that would emerge as a consequence of the elimination of economic hierarchies would be a utopia. Because if there were other forms of hierarchies that still exist...
Because he's, I don't, is this like begging the question, but why does he keep on assuming that the goal is to get rid of all the hierarchies? Like, oh, what, Karl Marx, you want to abolish class hierarchy? Well, why is that going to be good? Because there'll be other hierarchies. What, the ones I said I didn't want to get rid of? What the...
existed, people would be just as contentious about them as they are now. Like we have hierarchies of attractiveness, for example, that have nothing to do with economics or very little to do with economics, and there's no shortage of contention.
You could make the same argument about slavery, couldn't you? You could say, well, why do you want to abolish the master and slave hierarchy? Because, you know, there'll just be some other hierarchies for people to get upset about, like, you know, the freed slaves, some of them will be better looking than other ones. And hey, and how's that for a hierarchy, Sonny Jim? Fucking hell. You're not smart. Fuck off.
Tension around that or any other form of ability. And so that's why I associate the social justice types who are basically postmodernist with Marx, they're postmodernist with Marxism. It's the insistence that you view the world through the narrative of oppressed versus oppressor. And I think it's a catastrophe. I think it's a catastrophe. And you...
How many postmodernists want to view the world as oppressed versus oppressor? I don't think that's that common. Yeah, that's not a thing. Is he confusing? I know people confuse political correctness with postmodernism, but yeah, oppressed versus oppressor isn't a postmodernist trait. Fuck.
No, sorry. Well, just one sentence, and then you can reply. It's so strange that you mention, for example, somebody like Foucault, who, for me...
Jordan Peterson's never read Foucault. Absolutely not.
Are you aware that his main target was Marxism? Okay, for him represented his game was never a radical change, and this is what I don't like in this, what you call postmodern, let's not call them Marxists, but revolutionaries. It's this enjoying your own self-marginalization. The good thing is to be on the margin, you know, like not in the center and so on and so on. It almost made me nostalgic for old communists who at least had the honesty to say, no, we don't enjoy our marginal position. We want to do something central power. I find so disgusting.
It's no wonder you don't get invited to lots of places.
Yeah. No, you know, Foucault for me embodies this logic of revolution, and by revolution he meant any social change, serious, that small resistances and so on, small marginal places of resistance and so on and so on. So, okay, but...
Yeah. It's not even that. It's just that they don't, it's just not part of postmodernism. As much as postmodernism is quite vague, it's often about deconstructing categories as well. So it's about taking categories that could be considered oppressor and oppressed and looking at like different broader dimensions that go beyond them, which is why they don't like class analysis.
But let's maybe drop it here if you want, but since you are replying my question, you should have the last word here.
No, I'll stop with that. Let's move to the next. We'll get back to these topics, no doubt, as we move forward with the question. So I'm happy to let that particular issue stop.
Did you already do your Stalinist manipulation and censored the questions and how? Because this program that he described to us, through some screens, questions, and so on, I think it puts him to the one who decides which questions are, as Stalinist what you put in, are the real voice of the people.
Yes,
and so
yes.
on.
Well, hopefully we can trust him.
Let's move on from that.
Yeah, I love it when he just like throws off the fucking moderators with his weird Stalin jokes. Oh god. Yeah. Base Zizek fucking. I just can't believe that Jordan Peterson got that much attention. Like, I get the self-help book was like, it was things that a lot of young, fucking dribbling, confused men needed to hear. But beyond that, when he started taking them into this into the realm of his incredibly confusing and confused political narrative, which has quite a lot aesthetically in common with fucking Nazism. Oh yeah, Zizek's points about fucking trans identity are fucking terrible, but we weren't there to hear him talk about that. Hey, I have about a sixth as many viewers as Novara Media has right now. That's pretty based. I'll take that. He has a good trans take. He just says it like a dumbass. Yeah. I mean, his take on Channel 4 was pretty bad with it. I don't understand the 3 toilets thing at all. But how are we doing, chat? It's been a while. Come here often? Fuck, I really want to do debates again. That would be fun. There were 1,000 people watching when that crazy Nazi came on and started telling me to give him the original Russian source to prove that not everyone in the Central Committee was Jewish. You can leg post in moderation, just don't. Fuck off. A lot of people here for the first time. Wow, that's cool. But I think after today, we're going to need to get our first. Any reason I'm not streaming on Twitch? I don't get as many viewers on Twitch. I have to get rated to. No, fuck off. Okay, Legs, you're getting banned again. You've got my 10-second warning. Yeah, Dylan, that's what I need to do. I need to message Dylan Burns and get on the fucking hippy dippy Hollywood squares so I can like shout aimlessly at conservatives. I'll do that tonight. It's been decided. What's the leg meme about? I don't know. Please react. Okay, what's this? Fucking hell. Right now, mechanical leg spam is code for please ban me. I currently can't dual stream because I'm Twitch affiliate. And I would probably like to stay on Twitch and get some Twitch subs and all that shit. And some people have got like 5-month subs, so I can't get rid of it anytime soon. Anyway. What the fuck is this? Wait, what? Did it just cut out? So I used to work as a music producer, and I'm going to be very, very honest about what I'm listening to here.
DJ fucking Basil here, steaming a shite. I'm going to tell you a story about my Friday night. Bored as fuck, I'm sitting in my house.
There's too much bass. Way too much fucking bass. The words are funny though.
My body's all stiff and I need a let loose. A perfect time to de-fucking stress. It's only one day out of the week, but it's the fucking best. So it's a Friday night and I'm walking up the street, so everybody better bounce to the fucking beat, singing.
That hi-hat is like or whatever that is, shaking, like that weird tambourine thing in the background is the most like harsh shit I've heard. Vocals too quiet, too thin. Needs some compression, some distortion, some taming on the 4K.
I'm a lightweight and I am sticking bottle of beer.
Need some.
And I moved my chicken. DJ Basil's got balls.
Yeah, Larry's fucking based in chat. Needs a yeah. Wish someone would distort me. Mood.
Steal a bottle of Bucky and a $5 deal. Saying I'm a lightweight and I am sticking bottle of beer and I move my chicken. DJ Basil's got balls of steel off a bottle of Bucky and a $5 deal. Got my bottle of Buck and I'm fucking set.
Bass pattern is so fucking weird.
It tastes like shit, but you swear. I get to the house and the party's pumping. Tunes on nice and the bass is thumping. Spot a bug dancing through the pad. I'm checking her out and she looks nae bad. I gave her a drink and I had one take. And this conversation started and I had to say, I'm a lightweight and I am sticking bottle of Bucky and I'm my chicken.
It's 6 minutes and 40 seconds long. What happens?
So I got her in the bed and I cuffed her tight and said, sorry doll, you're on your own tonight. Because I'm a lightweight and I am sticking bottle of Bucky and I'm my chicken. DJ Baz has got balls of steel.
More bass. As if there wasn't too much bass already. They just doubled the bass. What the fuck?
A bottle of Bucky and a $5 deal. Say I'm a lightweight and I am sticking bottle of Bucky and I'm my chicken.
It feels like the bass is slightly panned as well. It's like slightly stronger in the left. Yeah, too much bass, too much fucking top end, and like nothing in the middle. Not all bass is bass.
DJ Baz has got balls of steel off a bottle of Bucky and a $5 deal.
Hey, Larry, you got a big brain producer in chat. Hey, everything, but yeah, exactly. It should be in mono. They've left the mic on even though they're not recording vocals. I like that. That's a good touch.
DJ fucking Basil.
DJ fucking. I love the sarcasm that is like delivered. Oh god, yeah. That was amazing. Holy shit. That actually just legitimately ejected 70 viewers from this stream. They're all gone. What's happening on the twitter.coms? I'm not getting spammed anymore, so that's nice. Will this be a VOD? Yeah, it'll be a stream VOD. Wait, what? His take sounded bad. His beliefs is less of a practical one about toilets, but rather a critique of the ideology of gender itself and how he doesn't care if women should. Yeah. That is actually quite a base take, Lexi. Yeah. No, see, people have problems with Twitter, and I can see why. It's pretty bad if you're like, you know, in the wrong situation. But I just never see one thing I never do, and one thing that I probably should have done for my own curiosity was I never used to look at the comments underneath anyone's tweets that I followed. So for the longest time, I was always aware of this, the online left, you know, the evasive online left, who were just out for blood and like optically terrible and ideologically confused. And like I knew they existed based on what other people said, but I was always like, where are you finding these people? Are you just looking at like obscure tanky threads on Reddit and all that? But then I saw that whole event where a YouTuber called Riley Grace fucking tweeted about people using Eat the Rich and how it's a little bit of a optically bad meme. And then she just started getting bombarded with fucking threats and like incitements to violence and people like proper fucking abuse. And I'm like, whoa, that's the online left, you know? And I only noticed that because someone pointed it out to me after I'd like commented, and then I like looked in the comments. I was just like, fuck, you know? Scared the shit out of me. There's definitely such a thing. But you only notice that if you look at the comments of other people, because I don't follow anyone or I try not to follow anyone who's like that. Maybe I do and just don't notice. But yeah, I generally don't follow people who are like that. So I only see it when it's been screen capped or if I just look through the comments. So Twitter can be if you're not getting targeted, then Twitter can be a pretty decent experience as long as you just know who to follow and who not. Well, you can definitely hate follow to see what the other side are saying, although I don't even do that very much anymore. Only a few who are very reliable for bad takes. Like, this fucking... If you wear a mask because you want to and not because you're forced to, you're part of a superstitious religious cult. Oh, God. You hate follow your own account? Yeah. That's very existential. Ugh. All right. I've had a good one. I've done all my segments. Thanks, Josh Woods, for the 2 donos. That was very sweet of you. Yeah, the age-restricted incels video. I was going to talk about free speech, but it just takes so long to have that argument. Might do that next stream. Maybe tomorrow. Who knows? I'm still in the process of learning whether or not doing this on my main channel fucks the algorithm. I don't think it does, as long as I unlist, so we'll go with that. Do I believe in I love freedom of speech. Love. Okay, my friends, my lovers. It's been a pleasure. See you again sometime. Go and fucking follow the Twitch. The link's below. You'll get more of these over there for the time being. All right. Have a good one.